I call this meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum of members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 6 o'clock. We will move to item 1A, which is our invocation, which I will lead us in that tonight, and then our pledges will be led by Ms. Stacy Chase. So if you care to join us, please stand. Dear God, we are grateful for this day. We are grateful for this opportunity we have to meet here and conduct the business of the district. We are grateful for all those that have prepared for this meeting. We're grateful for all of the teachers that go out each and every day and teach, and not just the teachers, but the administrators, the staff, everybody that is involved, from picking the kids up on the buses to feeding them to making sure that they're where they're supposed to be and getting back home safely at night. We're grateful for all of their work and their efforts and their desire to want to shape minds in the best ways that they know how. We ask you to be with the families that have lost loved ones that are related to our district over this last couple of weeks, that they may find peace in their hearts and strength as they turn to thee. We ask you to be with us during our meeting today, and we ask these things in the name of our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 2A, which is our special recognition for Read for a Better Life initiative. Dr. Knoll.
All right. Each year we claim a day across the district to put a full-on celebration of reading, and that is our Read for a Better Life Day. And tomorrow is our day, and I know that many of you will be joining me out on campuses as we read to children. And tonight, to introduce our initiative and then to share a very special book reading with us, we have Dr. Upshaw and Dr. Winkler.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, reading is fundamental to the academic success of all our children. The Conroe Independent School District recognizes that the single most important activity that we do to build the knowledge required for children's eventual success is reading aloud to them. Read aloud builds sound and word awareness and stimulates language development. It helps children to practice listening and provides students with a greater range of experiences. In addition, the nurturing attention from parents during reading encourages children to form a positive association with the act of reading. Reading to children builds motivation, curiosity, and memory. Reading is not only a vital skill and a fundamental function of today's society, but reading is the gateway to new ideas, to learning, and providing the fuel for the imagination. The Board of Trustees are respectfully requested to consider the adoption of a resolution as part of tonight's consent agenda, which proclaims that the staff of CISD will read and support for a better life, and authorizes the district to establish and enlist the support of all our parents and community members of CISD to read aloud to our students every day for 30 minutes. So in continuation of the celebration, Dr. Shelley Winkler is going to introduce our guest speaker.
All right.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. Each year at Celebrate Our Schools, our staff is given a moment to tap into their inner child and have a book read to them. It is a reminder that no matter what your age, you're never too old to appreciate the magic of having a book read to you. This year, we were honored to have Mrs. Carol Ann Demerit as our guest reader. If you have ever had the pleasure of meeting Mrs. Demerit, you know that she can make you feel like the most important person in the room when she's engaging with you. She exudes grace and a charm that is a rare find. This extraordinary lady is undoubtedly one of the most resilient and strong people you will ever meet. You may have heard of her story as the mom of David, the boy in the bubble during the 1970s and 80s. However, that is only one piece of her story as a dedicated mother, grandmother, and advocate for children. She has continued the fight for both of her sons, who suffered from severe combined immunodeficiency, known as SCID. This Thursday, September 21st, will mark David's 52nd birthday, and Mrs. Demerit has never wavered in her advocacy. Mrs. Demerit has turned her family's story into action for change. She worked closely with the physicians who cared for David and became an integral part in seeing the dream of Texas Children's David Center in Houston and the David Clinic in the Woodlands come to life. Both of these facilities have provided medical care and treatment for children who are immunocompromised. The tenacity of Mrs. Demerit and David's doctors also moved the medical community to not only develop a screener for SCID, but to have it added to the newborn screening requirements across the United States. This act and this early intervention has saved countless lives of children who are now leading healthy lives. Mrs. Demerit continues to be an active part of David Elementary, where she speaks to children on David Day, a much anticipated event in which Mrs. Demerit shares the legacy of David. She is a staple at the David Dream Run, which raises money and awareness for Texas Children's Hospital and research. This spring will mark the 30th annual Dream Run that has raised over $600,000. Mrs. Demerit has a goal of helping raise $1 million within her lifetime, and I have no doubt this amazing lady will do so. The world would be a much different place with a few more Mrs. Demerits in it. Mrs. Demerit is here with us tonight with a few guests. So Mrs. Demerit, will you stand and be recognized? Also joining Mrs. Demerit is her grandson, Cameron, and maybe her second son, Mr. Allen, the principal of David Elementary. Will you stand and be recognized? She is a testament that big things come in small packages. Please enjoy Mrs. Demerit reading Maybe, a story about the endless potential in all of us by Kobe Yamada and illustrated by Gabriella Baroche.
Maybe. Written by Kobe Yamada. Illustrated by Gabrielle Baroche. Have you ever wondered why you are here? You are the only you that ever has been or ever will be. You have so much to offer. Maybe you will invent something that no one has ever seen before. Maybe you will build things that reach high into the sky. Your life is yours. Try as many things as you can try. See as much as you can see. Wherever you go, take your hopes, pack your dreams, and never forget. It is on journeys that discoveries are made. Maybe you will help others to see beauty in each day. Or maybe you will lift cheering crowds onto their feet. Do everything with love. Follow your heart and see where it leads you. Maybe you are here to shine a light into places that have been dark far too long. Maybe you will speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Maybe you are here to help in ways that only you can. There will be struggles. There will be fears. And it will always be easy. At times it will feel really hard. And you might make a mess of things. You may fall down. You may fail. But you will always get back up. And you will rise a little stronger and a little taller. Because there really is more inside you than you know. And this world needs your gifts, your talents, your big ideas. And maybe you are just getting started. What if you are only scratching the surface of what you can do and who you can be? What if you have talents you haven't discovered yet? There is something powerful, even magical about you. You already have everything it takes to do big things. Maybe you have no idea just how good you really can be. And maybe you don't know how much you matter. But maybe, just maybe, the world has been waiting centuries for someone exactly like you. One thing is for sure, you are here. And because you are here, anything is possible.
thank you, Mr. Merritt, for that beautiful reading. I don't know if you'd like to say a few words. We're always honored when you join us, so you are welcome if you would like to. Well, you probably, if you can go to the microphone, it'd be better, just because we're broadcasting and people are watching and they won't be able to hear you if they don't have the microphone.
Well, yes, I would like to say a few words of appreciation. Thank you, Dr. Null, for this invitation. Thank you, President Hubert, for this wonderful welcoming that you gave me and my grandson today. And thank you, Board of Trustees. I had 2 prayers when my David passed away. One of them was that the bubble had burst for all time, and that was that science would strive, continue to stay on course to find the answer so that children born with SCID or other primary immune disorders would not have to live in isolation as David did. David's life was unique, but Conroe Independent School District gave him a light, and it gave him a new world that we hoped and prayed that he would someday join. The teachers, his special ed teachers, it was not an easy task. They had to prepare well in advance because everything that went into David's bubble had to be sterilized. They met every challenge that came, and David was always very respectful to his teachers. And I am so grateful for you, this Conroe Independent School District, for giving David a new look about life and how it might be. My second prayer was that David would not be forgotten. The press gave David good accounts of his life and how what was new with his life and how things were changing in his life. And so I recall the day that the superintendent at the time, Dr. Griffin, called and asked the school board, your predecessors had just voted to name an elementary school and honor David. And they would call it David Elementary, and that's how David was known. As Dr. Winkler said, in a day actually, we would have honored and celebrated David's 52nd birthday. He died in February of '84, age 12. My David died as bravely as he lived, with an appreciation for that slight portion of life he had been given by God, his physicians, his family, and all those who shared in his life. I thank you all for this evening, and thank you, Mr. Allen, the principal of David Elementary, and my grandson for accompanying me. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, because you certainly started my evening with a great memory. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Barrett, I can't let you leave real quick because I know you've heard this story from me. I've told you and I've told it before, but I just have to tell it again. As a young man growing up in San Antonio, Texas, I had 3 siblings, and every time there was an update on David, my mother would sit her 4 kids down, and we would watch and we would learn about him and about the situation. And so before the school was ever even named after him, he was touching families' hearts and lives, and I was very honored. I had no idea later on in life that my wife and I would live in Sylvan Forest and Cochran's Crossing and have the opportunity for my kids to go from kindergarten to 3rd grade to David Elementary. And when we walked in and I saw his picture, it just was a rush. So I just wanted to say that to you one more time. So thank you for who you are and what you do. Thank you. He will always be remembered. All right, moving on to item 2B, which is our District of Distinction Award, our Texas Art Education Association.
All right, we get to continue the celebration of the great work of our teachers and students here in Conroe ISD with Dr. Bob Horton, our Director of Fine Arts, will share with us great news.
Well, good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. I am excited to share with you that Conroe ISD has received a 2023 designation as a District of Distinction from the Texas Art Educators Association. So let me begin by thanking you, our CISD Board of Trustees, for your support of fine arts that allow opportunities like this recognition to be possible. One of the tangible expressions of our wonderful work done by our kids and teachers, you see as you literally walk into the building. This past weekend we had our district art show open house. 442 pieces of artwork in our building done by our CISD students. And so there are maps and lists at the front if you ever would just like to come in and look around. And we also have a digital version of that available on our Fine Arts website. So after that commercial, let me also say that, that our district, CISD, received this honor, this District of Distinction, for providing a well-rounded education that advocates for and integrates visual arts curriculum to inspire creativity and provide opportunities that connect our students to their community and beyond. So just a few words of explanation. The Texas Art Educators Association is the leading advocate for visual arts in the state. The organization has previously honored members and is now honoring districts for their work. So for this award, over 1,200 school districts were eligible to apply, and to earn this 2023 designation, we submitted a documentation from a very extensive 14-point rubric which evaluated the school year. Only 69 districts in our big state met the high standards and will receive this outstanding honor, indicating that we are in the top 5% in art education of districts in our great state of Texas. Thank you. A quote from Sandra Newton, who is the chair for the Administration and Supervision Division of our Arts Education Association, says, Conroe ISD has set a high standard for visual arts advocacy, integrated visual arts curriculum, has encouraged creativity, community participation, and student growth. It is a true testament to your visual arts educators' skill, dedication, and flexibility that the quality of their programs continues to provide strong and comprehensive art education experiences to students. This is the 5th year that TAEA is honoring districts, and it is the 2nd consecutive year that we have been named a District of Distinction. And so at this time, we have several of our art teachers sporting their beautiful visual art shirts. I would like them to come forward, as well as our fine arts specialist, Dr. Lisa Davis, who led this recognition work, and be recognized as well. Thank you. This is a wonderful group of our over 130 visual arts teachers that we have in the school district, so thank you all for being here.
If you can't see her, she can't see you. Hang on. Say that.
Congratulations and thank you. I'd like to thank each and every one of you and those that are not here for all that you do for our students, to allow them to imagine and create and put something together that they've never dreamed of before. You have given our students a place to be and belong, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate all that you do for Conroe ISD. So thank you. And thank you to our community who believes in fine arts and supports our district in every possible way in the fine arts program. So thank you again. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. I love your watch, Doctor. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
Once again,
Congrats. Congratulations. Thank you. Good to see you too. Thanks for all you do.
Hey, good to see you. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. All right, moving on to item C, which is the Woodlands High School UIL Class 6A Lone Star Cup winner.
All right, thank you very much. This is a huge honor for us to be able to have this celebration tonight. It's not one that we take for granted, although the Woodlands High School has somewhat made a habit of winning this award. And I know that Dr. Landry is going to tell us a little more about the award so that we fully understand it, but I want to give you just the big picture perspective of what this award is. The UIL is the governing body of all interscholastic activity in Texas. So it includes fine arts and academics and athletics, all the things that Dr. Landry is going to tell us about. But each year they honor the one school that has had the greatest achievements in all of those areas, and you're named the Lone Star Cup champion. So one school for each division. There's 6A, 5A, 4A. The largest division is 6A. The Woodlands High School has always been in the largest division of high schools in the state of Texas. It used to be 5A, then they bumped us to 6A. But this is Lone Star Cup win number 9 for the Woodlands High School, and there are districts out there that have never won a single Lone Star Cup. And so I think it's a testament to the great people that Dr. Landry will introduce, but it must be said that we have had a long line of very successful principals at the Woodlands High School, and it starts there. Mm-hmm. And so in Dr. Landry's tenure there, the greatness continues. So I'm proud to introduce our principal from the Woodlands High School, Dr. Ted Landry, to tell us more about this year's champion.
Good evening. President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll. On behalf of the Woodlands High School, the faculty, staff, and the students, I'd just like to say thank you for taking time out of what I know is a busy agenda to recognize this accomplishment. Dr. Knoll could not be more accurate. This is the sought-after trophy for high schools, and it's sought after because it's hard to get. And in order to do it, you have to be good at most things. A lot of people will say it's awarded to the best school in the state of Texas, and being the winner, I'm not going to gainsay that. But the way I like to look at it is that it rewards the school that is the most well-rounded, the school that offers its students the best possible opportunities to showcase their talents and skills and their interests. So if you're a student at the Woodlands High School, with over 100 clubs and organizations, we more than likely have a place for you to belong. And then if you are really excited about it, we have an opportunity with the elite programming that we have for you to excel and be very successful and hopefully set you up for success in your future. So we could not be more proud of that. So about the Lone Star Cup itself, Dr. Knoll gave us a little overview, but I know you guys are well aware, but for the audience, might not know that this is the state of Texas playoff of playoffs. So for every UIL event, a school is awarded a certain number of points for how it completes that or finishes in that event. So if your football team makes the playoffs, you receive 2 points. If you happen to be district champions, you get an additional 2 points, and then 2 points for every successive victory after that. Or if your swimming team wins the state championship, you get 10 points. A marching band finishes 4th at the state competition, 8 points, and so forth. And at the end of the year, they compile these points, and the school at each classification with the most points is crowned the winner. This past year, the Woodlands High School amassed 117 points of Lone Star Cup points, which is the most since I've been there. We were the only 6A high school to break the 100-point barrier. And the second place school was 19 points behind us at 98 points, which in the Lone Star Cup world, that's significant. That's pretty much domination right there. So we're gonna take it because it is, like I said, it's very hard to do, and it takes efforts across the boards, athletics, fine arts, and academics. And I'm going to introduce some folks here in a minute who oversee all of that for us, and they touch every piece of it. But so how did we get 117 points? I'm going to take a minute because when I looked at this list, and I had to bring notes. Typically, I don't bring notes, but I didn't want to forget anything. So to get 117 points, it took a state championship in girls swimming and diving. It took a state runner-up for boys swimming and diving, as well as robotics. It took a top three or third place finish for team tennis, volleyball, and girls golf. Top 5 in the state finishes for boys cross country, girls cross country, boys track and field, and marching band. Top 8 finishes by boys soccer and baseball, a Sweet 16 appearance by girls soccer, and playoff berths with football, cheerleading, boys basketball, and softball. And then in addition to that, you get the extra points, remember, for the district championship. So we were the 13-6A district champion in team tennis, boys cross country, girls cross country, volleyball, girls swimming, girls soccer, girls golf, softball, baseball, and academics. So when I say that I could not be more incredibly proud of a group of people, it would be an understatement. I'm going to introduce our UIL academic campus coordinator, Mrs. Laura Lansbaum, and our campus athletic director, Coach Jim Rapp. You won't find two more worthy individuals, dedicated educators who work with our students. Between the two of them, they touch every aspect of what I've just read. And they guide the coaches and the sponsors and the faculty in helping our young people succeed. And I couldn't be more proud of them as well. So you guys have some remarks? Ms. Lansbaum?
Well, I just want to thank President Hubert, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Knoll. Thank you so much for having us here tonight to honor this this opportunity for us. You know, I do have some notes because Dr. Landry, he's the master. It's an honor for me to represent the best overall athletic program in the state of Texas at the 6A level. I'm proud of my coaches and our athletes and all their hard work and dedication to be their best. Winning and being successful is not easy, and it's not something that needs to be taken for granted. 9 Lone Star Cup championships in 25 years is pretty impressive. It's probably the second. It's the second highest total of anybody in the state of Texas, and we have the most at the highest level. And we're working hard to work on getting number 10. So I just want to thank you again for having us here, and thanks for this honor. Thank you.
Mr. Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll, thank you very much. Academics is a different animal for our students. We compete just as intensely as the athletic kids do, and they have a great time. And our faculty loves working with those students at a different type of competition for them, which is unusual. And it's just another way for our students to be involved with school, gives them a reason to be proud of their school, and gives our community something to be proud of. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to add a quick second because I was curious this summer. This is our 9th time to win it, but I was curious as how have we done in the other years? So of the 24 years, we won it 9 times. We were second place 7 times. So 16 of the 24 years, we were either first place or second place. Wow. Our lowest finish is 6th place finish in 2005. The remainder were divided between 3rd and 4th place. So for 24 years, the Woodlands High School has achieved at a very high level, and we look forward to continuing that.
speaking on behalf of the board, we are extremely proud of everything and that you guys do. And it's extremely important. We really believe in all means all. And so all of our kids, all of our students get an opportunity to excel at whatever it is that they gravitate towards. And what I get to see on my side, because I've had two athletes come through there, and one actually this last year they almost made it to the state championship in baseball. They were 2 games short. But what I have seen going through that is the dollars in scholarship money that comes because of what y'all put forth and the coaches that you put forth and how much they work with those kids. And Miss Nelson has a senior this year as well who's playing on the football team. So we've got them all over the place. And it's just really important to see those things. And also what we see is because of the winning tradition, there are schools out there that just come gravitate towards the Woodlands without even knowing the kids just yet, because they know that the Woodlands produces academic and athletics at the highest level. So we appreciate all you're doing. Congratulations once again, and we couldn't be prouder. So congratulations. Yeah, please do. I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. President Hubert, I wanted to mention that, yes, winning the UIL Cup is a wonderful opportunity, but it starts very early on in our elementary schools, our K through 6 schools. It starts in 5th and 6th grade when we start presenting fine arts, and then in 7th and 8th grade when we start presenting UIL sports to our students. And so I just want to recognize the entire Woodlands High School feeder, because this is a win that each and every one of you have had a part in. So congratulations, Woodlands.
Well said. Well said. All right. Thank you, Ms. Wagman. All right, moving on to item 2D, which is Forbes America's Best In-State Employers 2023 Human Resources Department.
All right, thank you very much. Another exciting honor, and one of the things that when I have an opportunity to speak to folks in our community, I attribute the success of the school district back to our great employees. And we just saw an example of 3 wonderful people here that are in leadership roles. Before that, we saw these great teachers that are interacting with kids every day. That's the strength of the school district. And our goal is to create an environment where we can recruit and retain the very best teachers. And we appreciate when outside entities recognize us for doing that. And so to make this introduction is our Director of Communications, Ms. Blakelock.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. I'm so excited to be here tonight to share with you that Conroe ISD for the 2nd consecutive year was named a Best in State Employer by Forbes. We were one of 6 school districts on the list, and the way the rankings are determined is by over 70,000 anonymous employee surveys. And so we ourselves have not done any surveys, so people are rating us out all over the place, and we are so proud to be recognized in this manner again. And that is truly due to your leadership and your support in emboldening our departments to go out and find the best employees and support them. And so we thank you for that, for your direction and leadership. Tonight, we're going to specifically highlight the efforts of our Human Resources Department. We know so many people contribute to making this a great place to be. We have exceptional employees. We have a wonderful community. We have an outstanding culture. But you know what? The rubber meets the road in the Human Resources Department. And so tonight, we're going to have our Executive Director of Human Resources, Paula Green, come up and introduce some of her staff and share a little bit.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, the Human Resources Department is so proud to serve all of the employees of this great district. With your support and your dedication, our HR staff works each day to ensure that the very best employees are hired, offered the greatest benefits, and provided with the necessary supports to be successful as they work with our students each day. Looking at this summer alone, because we always gear up to start a new school year, we're proud to say that we hired over 1,600 employees, and with that did over 1,500 transfers. And we did all of that to try and support all of our campuses and all of our departments. I am so honored tonight to have some of our staff members here to just stand in this recognition with me, because the work that we do is done with a group. So with us tonight, we have Dr. Jamie Bone, our Assistant Director, Tiffany Matfeld, our Assistant Director of Benefits, Sammy Jo Barnhart, our Benefits Secretary, Chris Corson, our Retention and
It's your moment.
Recruitment Specialist.
Your moment.
I thought they were behind me. All right. All right, Terrell Jackson, our TIA Coordinator, Paul LeBlanc, our new HR Coordinator, Hillary McVeigh, our Employment Services Specialist, Cindy Quigley, our Hiring Specialist, Isela Prada, our Secretary, Christy Stavino, our Auxiliary Recruiter, and Lorene Wisner, our Substitute Manager. And we thank all of them for all that they do.
Forbes 2023 America's Best In-State Employer. When I left Mississippi, I told my mom I was going to get on the Forbes list, so this is going to count. No, seriously, this award is a testament to you guys bringing in great people, and a testament to the administration, the leadership in general, for keeping great people and cultivating an environment where folks are happy to come to work. We all understand it's a job to be done, but anytime you can get up and rise every morning, understanding you're going in an environment that's conducive to you being successful and producing phenomenal results as you guys do, it just changes things. It changes lives. So never ever underestimate the impact you guys are making and continuously make to earn such an award like this, and to keep your people happy and keep your people wanting to work for CISD. And that's the only way we can be successful and have the results that we have with our kids. We just saw all the phenomenal UIL and awards that we get across the board. That can't be possible. That is made possible by great people doing great things in a great environment. So thank you for the culture that you set, the people you bring in, and the culture that the administration and the principals and everyone here that's involved in setting that culture do day in and day out. So thank you on behalf of the board. We really appreciate you guys.
Thank you for all you do. Congrats. If I photobombed your picture, I swear. I'm sorry. I was like, that's what the picture Thank you so much.
Awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations once again. Very good. Moving on to item 3, which is our citizen participation, and we do have some people signed up tonight. So during this portion of the meeting, patrons who have signed up in advance may address the board in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and Board Policy BED. For comments regarding an issue on tonight's posted agenda, the board will defer its discussion of this issue until the item is reached on the agenda. For comments related to an issue that is not on the board's posted agenda, the board cannot deliberate or make a decision related to that issue. We ask that the speakers address their comments to the board and not to the audience. If any speaker's comments are regarding a complaint, the board directs you to its policy regarding complaints, which can be found on the district's website. Please be aware that if your purpose in addressing the board is to seek a remedy for your complaint, the board cannot discuss or respond to your concern until you have met the requirements of the appropriate district policy. The board wants to hear what all speakers have to say, and the board requests that the audience treat all speakers regardless of their message with respect. However, if any speaker's comments violate the rights of a student or employee or other person, I will ask the speaker to refrain from such comments, and if necessary, the podium microphone will be turned off. The speaker's comments will not be streamed, and the speaker will not be allowed to continue addressing the board. Fortunately, we've never had to do that. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to present their comment to the board. Screens around the room will display the speaker's time. When the countdown timer reaches 0, the next speaker will be called. Ms. Godfrey, will you please call our first person?
Teresa Neiman.
Last month, I stood here and used my First Amendment right to object to my carrying a gun in school. Some individuals verbally attacked me for my position. However, I am not the enemy. We should turn our ire toward the Texas legislature, who chose to neither fully fund the armed officer mandate nor Texas public education. Legislatures played politics rather than fulfill their responsibilities. We cannot recall all our legislatures. Instead, we must focus on what we control. We must pass the 4 current CISD bond propositions to ensure that our district can meet our immediate needs and to ensure that the maintenance and operation budget remains available for as many salaries as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Douglas Law.
Do I get her 1 minute that's left over?
No, sir. Not my rules.
Good evening. My name is Doug Laws. My wife and I are 33-year residents of Montgomery County, where we raised our children in the CISD schools. I want to address the new Texas law allowing unlicensed chaplains to volunteer or be hired to work in public schools as counselors. The law does not require training or certification in mental health, religion, chaplaincy, or education. Furthermore, chaplains will not be prohibited from proselytizing students. I strongly believe this law is a bad idea that will endanger our students by inadequately caring for their educational needs and putting them at risk. I am a retired chaplain with a BS in education, 3 master's degree, 1 of them in theology and pastoral care, certified by the Association of Professional Chaplains, and I have a Texas teaching certificate. Professionally, chaplains minister by providing spiritual support to those who are struggling in their faith, are ill, dying, or bereaved. Certified chaplains receive extensive training and supervision in clinical pastoral care. Uncertified chaplains receive no such training or endorsement. Conversely, licensed school counselors are tasked with nurturing and providing educational guidance to their students. Their training, experience, and endorsement is primarily in education and mental health. As former educators and ministers, my wife and I see the difference between these 2 roles clearly, and it is our firm belief that chaplains, especially untrained chaplains, do not have the qualifications to be capable school counselors any more than counselors could serve as capable chaplains. I entreat the CISD board and Superintendent Null to seriously reject this proposal. Please do not enact this law in the Conroe ISD. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Everett O'Neill. Everett O'Neill. Brittany Hubbard. Singh Gulshan.
We bought our house in the Woodlands because of the school. I have 3 kids. They have been in the school for 18 years. And we love it. I want to ask 3 questions. Have anyone published a book or dissertation?
Just focus on us if you don't mind.
Have anybody published a book before their 14th birthday? My son has. 15 days ago, we received royalty payments for his first book. He's working on his second book. Last Tuesday, he went to school. He was eating his lunch. A gang came and told him he looks like a mouse, a rat. They told him he will not have a girlfriend in his life. They took his lunchbox. When he took it back and he saw that it's getting out of hand, he tried to walk away. One of the gang member ran around the table and punched him in the face. He had a 2-inch cut right here on his forehead, a swollen nose and a swollen face. Me and my wife, we didn't receive a single call from the school saying anything happened. I had to go and yell at them. Principal didn't even know that this thing happened. They have all kind of things saying, I was not there, we don't know what happened, this or that, nothing. But nobody took any action for the assault on my son. They called, the police came and he's telling me to talk like another. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Monica Laura.
Good evening. Thanks to the High Court of Texas, the SB 14 bill went into effect on September 1. If you are not familiar with the bill, no longer can minors get dangerous and forever scarring transgender surgeries. Thanks to the persistence of Representative Steve Toth, Dr. Oliverson, and the CISD Mama Bears. I personally appreciate and admire the tireless effort to all who battled against this barbaric practice of child mutilation. However, there is more work to be done, especially in our schools. Children of all ages are being indoctrinated through false teaching, planting bad seeds in innocent minds, libraries making books readily available that depict sexual activities to minors. In other words, pornography, gender confusion, transgender, non-binary, promoting LGBTQIA+. As a matter of fact, the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's Welcoming Schools distributes LGBTQ+ inclusive books to schools nationwide as a part of the In Attendance campaign. This is insidious in nature, and I pray all school and, yes, public libraries are taking inventory to purposely weed out the wheat from the chaff. In closing, schools have a set curriculum teaching the 3 R's. However, learning about history appears to be set aside and replaced with courses such as social emotional learning. It gives one pause to reflect on what the future holds for our children. Thank you for hearing my plea on behalf of all children who are potentially at risk in schools. I pray hearts are changed for the good of all children in harm's way. Insidious means ambush, sly, treacherous, seductive, having a gradual and cumulative effect, subtle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander Harris.
Dear Board and CISD, dear CISD Board and leadership, On August 15th board meeting, we saw an English teacher dangerously unhinged when her LGBTQ variant poster was removed and her choice of books was restricted. We are discovering many books in our ISD libraries with LGBTQ content that promote such lifestyles to minors, teaching them there is nothing wrong with being an LGBTQ. And it's okay to experiment, discover their orientation for themselves, and indulge in this lifestyle. This aligns with the National Sex Education Standard, NSCS, which promotes LGBTQ from the lower grades. And the whole librarians, headed by Dr. Lambert, are totally clueless, even though, and I proved it at the last hearing on Ramona Blue. The Texas Penal Code Section 4321 defines obscene materials based on community standards. Our founding fathers built this nation on biblical standards. That was their community standards. Today, the decisions, 5 members of this board, you're making decisions based on atheist ideologies. A majority of our nation is going by biblical values and standards. This shirt, which I designed, when I go around, people come up and thank me for it. Our nation, majority, go by biblical standards. All I can say in closing is 4 of you are up for re-election. And if you continue down this path, catering to this LGBTQ community, I mean, they have the rights, but you keep catering, making decisions, allowing books, indoctrinating them, you're going to have a very rude surprise in your future political aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Holden.
Almost like a follow-up, last month an English teacher did present here that she was very upset that she felt she was forced to remove a banner and a book from her classroom. She obviously can read the law and the school policy and knows that she would never be forced to be armed in her classroom. But we sat here and we listened to her talk about how she would be forced, and doesn't want to be forced, to buy a, quote, gun, buy, quote, bullets, and, quote, choose who lives and dies. Who would ever do that in their classroom? Now, Mr. Null, you said your impression was this related to being armed in the classroom. Even if breached, she would never be forced to buy a gun or buy bullets or choose who lives and who dies. And she obviously has never taken lives, or she wouldn't speak so carelessly about it. She also has never been shot at very much, or she'd realize that one round doesn't mean that you have taken a life. Now, since, Mr. Null, you chose to not do anything with that, I will turn it over to Skeeter Hubert, and because this is on tape and is being presented to the whole county, whatever action you decide to take, whether it's to fire or refer for prosecution, I think the public needs to know that you took action. I consider this dangerous. This lady is neither trained nor proficient in firearm use, and yet she's talking about it. And she's talking about it in dangerous terms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Laskowski.
Remember when we were all celebrating like 20 minutes ago? Good evening, Dr. Knoll, President Hubert, trustees. Thank you for your service and your time, and thank you for unanimously voting to put the entire bond on the ballot in the upcoming election. I didn't get a chance to thank you last month. I hope everyone is excited as I am to vote for all 4 bond propositions this November. I know some people are concerned about a slight increase in cost. I read recently that the average price of coffee in Texas coffee shops is $2.50 per cup. And that's from 2 years ago, so maybe it's a little higher now. That price more than doubles if you've been getting your pumpkin spice latte fix lately. But for the average district homeowner, for a little over $4 a month, we get to provide additional resources, classrooms, technology, and facilities for our district. For a little more than a cup of joe at your favorite local shop, we can create a more inviting learning environment for thousands of students and announce to the rest of Texas Not only are we great in UIL, that all children are welcome here too. With a single vote, we can overcome our ideological differences and the hateful rhetoric of some elected officials and some people in this room to declare in one voice that all means all is more than a catchy phrase or a t-shirt. It's a vision of our future. This vision requires a growth mindset, a mindset that seeks scientific evidence to drive policy changes, not just anecdotal evidence. A mindset that cares about the mental well-being of all children, including those of marginalized communities. A mindset that humbly accepts advice from those with more experience rather than rejecting it as chastisement. I believe we are all capable of embracing this growth mindset and modeling the insatiable love of learning we expect in our children. This November, vote for all 4 propositions for the bond and show Texas that our CISD students are worth more than a cup of coffee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brent Vizay.
Brent Vizay, 2023 Bond Committee member. As a follow-up to what the speaker just said, my wife and I joined Rodrigo Chavez at a Sunday community event in downtown Conroe, spoke to dozens of people about the bond, and they were all very excited about it. And they were glad that it was a done deal because you voted 9-0 to approve the bond. They literally thought that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else needed to happen. We informed them that they actually need to vote because you just voted to approve to put the bond on the ballot. And they were happy to be out there to vote. In fact, many of them enrolled and signed up to register to vote at that event because they weren't registered. But our community still is ill-informed about the bond. And as fantastic as Dr. Knoll's one-man band show is, going around the community talking about the bond, because I've seen it and it is awesome, he's still only one man. We need all of you out there as the faces and leaders of this board and this district talking about this, why it's important, why it matters, how this is going to help operationally. These people are willing to vote as long as they're asked to vote by someone in person. That's all they want. And if we can engage them properly with that face-to-face ask or on social media or however we need to, the community will come out and support that bond. That's what I'm hearing. They're very excited about it. They just want to be asked and engaged. So please, each of you get out and talk to a group. I'm partnering with Carl White to talk to religious groups in the community. So please get out there, have your faces seen, have your voices heard, and get that vote out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michelle Knuckles.
The following book is in 11 CISD libraries, including Bozeman Intermediate, Mitchell Intermediate, and Veterans Memorial Intermediate. Mom, what if I'm a girl? So George knew it could be done. A boy could become a girl. She had since read on the internet that you could take girl hormones that could change your body, and you could get a bunch of different surgeries if you wanted them and had the money. This was called transitioning. You could even start before you're 18 with pills called androgen blockers that stopped the boy hormones already inside you from turning your body into a man's. But for that, you needed parental permission. Kelly took a deep breath. I'm sorry I ignored you last week. She scratched her neck. And you know what? If you think you're a girl, then I think you're a girl too. So you're like transgender or something? Kelly whispered as best as she could in her excitement. I was reading on the internet that there are lots of people like you. Did you know that you could take hormones so that your body, doesn't go all man-like? Yeah, I know, George said. George had been reading the websites about transitioning since Scott had taught her how to clear the web browser history on Mom's computer. This is a pretty common thread in the books that I've been reading for intermediate school students, where there's instruction on which websites to go and how to go to the websites and how to cover your tracks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Guillery? Excuse me, Guillery?
Nicole Guillery. It's okay, it's a hard one to say. Good evening, board. I am a proud English teacher of this district, and I am here tonight to raise a concern over a board member's social media post where they stated that a poster which says everyone is welcome here pushes a narrative of safe spaces, which implies the rest of Conroe ISD is not a safe space. I am positive that the board member simply made a mistake in posting this, as having been so involved in education, she is completely aware that students need reassurance that all spaces are safe for them to exist in. I am hopeful that speaking tonight, all of our board members will take a moment to reflect and remember how important it is to remind students daily that they are loved and that they are safe within our classrooms. Having a poster up is simply an easy way to remind them. It is no different than having a motivational poster that reads, "I believe in you." In a district where our slogan is all means all, I eagerly anticipate seeing all members of the board reassure the public that all are welcome here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Kinney?
Hi. I was unable to attend the last school board meeting, but I wanted to comment on the poster of children of different ethnicities holding hands that traumatized an unnamed student, as reported by a board member. I was unable to attend because I was in New York for my nephew's wedding and spending time with my brother, who is Irish American, and my sister-in-law, who is Japanese. I hope that doesn't traumatize you. Married nearly 40 years, their son, an amazing jazz musician, was marrying a beautiful and talented musician who is Mexican American. I hope that doesn't traumatize you. The wedding was planned in large part by the bride's best friend, a world-renowned musician who is Black. I hope that doesn't traumatize you. The entire trip was a display of joy and love, a veritable poster of people from all over the country and across many cultures. I came here tonight to say that hate and racism are also personal ideologies and don't belong in a school or on a school board. And if that traumatizes you, you might want to step down. I want to thank Conroe ISD and its teachers and librarians who, despite facing attacks about ridiculous things like posters, continue to raise up our students in our community through campaigns such as Read for a Better Life. For reading builds empathy, it cultivates connection, and sparks compassion, which is why diversity and voices matter. Think back to when you began reading on your own while at the same time navigating the emotional world of growing up. James Baldwin said it best. He said, "You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then," he said, "you read." It was books that taught me that things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive, who had ever been alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
April Kersey?
Hello, members of the board and Dr. Knoll. My name is April Kersey, and I am the SHAC membership chair. I've said this before, but CISD has wonderful teachers and staff, and I am proud to be part of this community. Tonight, the board will be asked to appoint the 23-24 SHAC membership roster. As you know, SHAC is a parent-led council that consists mostly of parents and district resources. Texas Education Code is the legal guidance for SHAC and is clear that SHAC recommendations are to be made to the board. As SHAC membership chair, 2 issues have been brought to my attention. First, district leadership modified the original recommendation that SHAC submitted for board consideration by removing key facts and adding individuals who did not apply. I understand the board is yet to receive the SHAC authored membership recommendation, so I'll be providing you a copy shortly. The district's actions to modify the SHAC recommendation without SHAC consent and represented as a SHAC product do not align with Texas Education Code. Second, in the modified recommendation, district leadership asked that 12 additional district resources be added to SHAC outside the defined application window. SHAC membership is limited to 31 members per our bylaws. If the board adds the 12 district resources as voting members, SHAC will not comply with its bylaws. SHAC needs district engagement, and our membership subcommittee recommended every district resource that applied. I know some of the 12 district resources that are being recommended, and they would be great assets. However, none of them applied during the application window, whereas all the parents and district resources that SHAC is recommending submitted an application per the SHAC membership process. A solution that complies with SHAC bylaws and increases district engagement is to add the 12 additional district resources as non-voting members. SHAC is operated with transparency, and I ask you to consider the facts presented with an open mind and make your decision accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Ropp.
Good evening, Dr. Knoll, President Hubert, and members of the board. My name is Melissa Raup, and I am a proud 23-year veteran teacher with 22 years in Conroe ISD. But more than anything, I am the proud parent of 2 Conroe High graduates and 2 students who are currently in the Caney Creek feeder zone. I am here because of our youngest children that I'm here today. You see, Kirsten and Aiden are adopted. Our family has a beautiful array of skin tones, much like the infamous poster you've heard so much about tonight. I display photos of my family in my classroom and in my Meet the Teacher presentation. My concern is, if that poster has become so offensive, will my family's photos become offensive? Will one day I be required to remove them from my classroom? Sounds ridiculous, right? I'm sure a lot of people in history thought, that sounds ridiculous. That'll never happen to me. But this is the slippery slope that you stand upon. And I ask that we get back to what CISD really means, and that all means all. Not all means all, except for you, and maybe you, and also you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bryce Spear.
Good evening, President Hubert, Board of Trustees, Dr. Knoll. I am here tonight to talk to you about pertinent school health advisory background information for the agenda item of appointing new members to the Student Health Advisory Council. When I was elected chair of the SHAC last year, we immediately got to work trying to learn more about the legislative code mandating SHAC through statutory authority. Additionally, there are other resources available to guide the SHAC for expectations and process. Those sources include the Texas Department of State Health Services, as well as guidance from the Texas Education Agency, among other entities. Prior to my arrival, the SHAC had a set of bylaws in place and also had a membership process in place. When contrasting the existing skeleton bylaws with what is recommended by the Texas Department of State Health Services, we worked to amend ours so we would be compliant with that recommended framework and those details. The CISD SHAC bylaws were reviewed by the district leadership and legal, and comments were incorporated into the bylaws. No district resources expressed concern with the SHAC having bylaws during that review process, and CISD SHAC had always had bylaws. The Texas DSHS Guide for Local SHACs under membership says, write bylaws defining the composition of the SHAC. Spell out membership criteria, number of members, selection method, member attendance rules, and voting rights. SHACs are expected by TSHAC and Texas DSHS to have bylaws and a clear membership process. The membership application process and selection process was run by Mr. Haymark in prior years. Similar to this year, the SHAC membership roster was submitted to the board for appointment. The process is the same this year as prior years, except this year we have a documented process and we had a defined application window. We have worked very hard to be compliant with all areas of governing documents, and we fully respect the relationship between the SHAC and Board of Trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Sunday Shibley. Sunday Shibley. Rachel Walker.
Good evening, Board, President Hubert, Dr. Knoll. A few meetings ago, there was an agenda item added by a board member about a poster in a classroom and their concerns that it represented personal ideologies, which is against CISD policy. After such a big deal was made about personal ideologies having no place in the classroom, imagine my surprise to see a local politician pandering to minors on school grounds during a school-sponsored function about his religious beliefs and what it means to be a man. So are religious beliefs not personal ideologies? Are we allowed to talk about gender expression, or still no? Because last I heard, a teacher was asked to no longer give a survey to students about their preferred pronouns, which is suicide prevention, by the way, is what that survey is. So which is it? We allow personal ideologies or we don't? Talking about gender is fine or it isn't? Because some of us are unclear about which ideologies these rules apply to. Perhaps the key takeaway is it's fine as long as the person expressing the ideologies was a large donor to certain campaigns. Meanwhile, I'll be at my son's first grade classroom tomorrow reading a book about s'mores. A cute little s'more, that's it. Not a gender, not a religious ideology, not politics, just a cute little s'more dancing around his town. Because some of us actually don't have an agenda to push other than we support public education and we support teachers. That's it.
Thank you.
Louis Pedraza.
Hello all, I hope you all guys are doing well. So I want to talk about the bond, my favorite topic actually. It's not really, but. So here's the 2019 bond proposal. At that time it passed, it was $807 million.
You want to talk on the microphone?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
So from that, this is on your website, it said 1 cent increase for a $300,000 home, first year. And then maybe a 3 cents after so many years. Year one, oops, my glasses. Year one was from 20, and I need my glasses.
Stop the time.
Yeah, you know, the 2 minutes pretty restrictive, by the way.
It is.
22 cents was the tax debt load, and it went up to 26 cents first year, 4 cent increase. Okay, that was 2019. Fast forward 2023, we're seeing on $2 billion, we're going to see a 2 cent impact over 25 years or some time period. All right? And I'll preface that. I have a whole lot of stuff, more stuff, but I don't think I'll get to it. The total indebtedness is going to be $5,786,000,000 and a lot of change. That's a lot more than a cup of coffee, okay? And you may not think so, but that does add up in terms of taxes. Well, you do think so, you know that. So I'll leave one last thing before I. So here's on the independent school district, well, here's a website where you report all your data. If we really did pass a $2 billion bond, we would be number one in students, cost per students, and we would be the lowest in terms of ability to pay. And that's in this thing, and I did send that out to the board. So my point is, the bond is not free, and it's not even close to what they're advertising. And I really have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Amber Sullivan.
My focus tonight is hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of parents raising their children not to cyberbully, yet being the #1 offenders of cyberbullying teachers and librarians. parents encouraging their students to snap photos of what teachers are asking on assignments and of library books that contain LGBTQ characters so they can take those photos and blast the teacher, librarian, and school on their political sites and neighborhood pages for the sake of harassment. The hypocrisy of community members standing up last meeting defending Mrs. Dungan by saying she shouldn't be judged without knowing her heart, and people should go talk to her directly before jumping to conclusions. Those being the same community members that for years have said the most awful, untruthful lies about librarians without ever speaking to one directly. So much viciousness that I left being a school librarian because I could not handle the hate this community spewed at me without even knowing my name. Bless the librarians that are stronger and have stayed. The hypocrisy of a district celebrating Read for a Better Life tonight being the same district that has now quietly removed over 75 books that were not ever challenged nor went through the challenging process. And I'm sure it's only a coincidence that many of the books removed are written by and about people of color or also from the LGBTQ community. The hypocrisy of us having a motto of all means all, and yet has board meeting discussions about removing diversity posters. The hypocrisy of board members posting on social media that our district should look into how much money we spend on children here illegally. The hypocrisy of constantly pushing agendas that make our LGBTQ students feel less than. All doesn't even mean most at this point, so I'm not sure why we're pretending this is a motto we hold true anymore. And most of all, the hypocrisy of this hate coming from people claiming to be good Christians. Good people do not spend their time harassing marginalized communities and cyberbullying public educators.
Thank you.
Kristen Johnson.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Knoll. My name is Kristen Johnson, and I am a CISD mother to 3 children. My oldest is a graduate of the Woodlands High School, and my youngest is a first grader. As you all are aware, there has been an immense amount of outrage from fellow parents concerning the remarks and false accusations from one of our trustees regarding a poster. Ironically, this particular trustee does not have a single child in the CISD district and has publicly stated repeatedly that they are going to refuse to do so. I guess that what's good enough for the goose is not good enough for the gander. Seeing as how she has 0 experience as either an educator in a first grade classroom or as a parent in a first grade classroom in CISD, I am going to enlighten her on the constructs of first grade. You see, first graders are really big fans of colorful posters. They like colorful artwork and inclusivity. If you don't know what that means, it means including everyone. Inclusivity is a core component of a successful classroom when you are 6. Additionally, first graders are politically ambiguous. In fact, the closest thing that you will find a first grader having to a political conversation will usually surround a superhero or a Pokemon character. They are not threatened by posters, rainbows, or inclusive imagery. Furthermore, some of our board members seem to have forgotten what the definition of public school is. So please allow me to enlighten you. A public school is a school that is maintained by public funds for the benefit of the children of a specific community or district. Our district is comprised of some 73,000 students who speak dozens of languages and believe and follow multiple faiths and ideologies. They identify differently and come from diverse backgrounds and families. This is exactly who public education is for, and this is exactly who belongs in public schools. Everyone in this district belongs in public schools because CISD, everyone is welcome, and all means all.
Thank you.
Audrey Warner.
Say again.
Audrey Warner.
Okay.
Good evening. All does mean all. All children of Conroe ISD should walk through the doors of their school building and into their classrooms and not be bombarded with any questions about their gender, nor pushed to give pronoun declarations. All parents have the right to be informed immediately if their child is exhibiting or expressing delusions of gender confusion. All community citizens have the right to stand before this board and express their concerns about what is happening in the classroom without being demeaned and treated as if they're ignorant and as if their race, sexual preference, or religious beliefs are in some way the problem we're facing today. All teachers should remember that the citizens of this community pay their wages, and that alone gives the citizens the right to speak and be heard, and that there should be at least a modicum of respect. All board trustees were voted into their respective positions and should be allowed to serve their electorate, standing up for the promises made during the campaign season without fear of physical harm. All of us are children of God and loved just because of who we are. Many stand up here and declare that the LGBTQ children are hated. Nothing could be further from the truth. What is hated is the lie and the length that many will go to perpetrate that lie and lead these desperate souls into further confusion and depression simply because they will not tell them the truth and insist on compounding that lie through surgeries and drugs that will alter that child for life, never to return to who they are and always were meant to be. Many times I hear people say, something inside me was missing, or I felt uncomfortable in my own body. What?
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Shayla Davison.
President Hubert, Dr. Knoll, Board of Trustees. My name is Shayla. I have been in CISD since I've started kindergarten. I have been here pretty much my entire school life. And I've been at Grand Oaks since my freshman year, and I am now a junior. When I was a freshman, I did very much enjoy reading, and as I have grown to a junior, a lot of the books that I like to read that featured LGBTQIA characters have been removed from the library, which has basically ended in me not liking to read as much anymore and finding other ways to spend my time. And because of this, I would like to say that removing books such as written by people of color or LGBTQIA authors, or even about drugs, teen pregnancy in a high school library, that's limiting the perspective of that we get from reading those books, which ultimately makes it harder to work as a team. When you are in the workforce, you are expected to be able to work with people of different backgrounds and people that have come from probably the opposite side of the world than you have and have lived a completely different life. And by limiting perspectives and making all things seem one way is limiting that ability to be able to connect with people and be able to work with them. That being said, a couple hundred parents also do not get to make the decision for the other thousands of parents in this district. My parents, for one, are incredibly supportive of who I am, who I choose to be, who I choose to love, and they have not once told me what books I can and cannot read, what TV shows I can and cannot watch, just because of the characters that those contain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tina Orbaugh. Tina Orbaugh.
Hi. Okay. Library books are indoctrinating our kids. I don't know why all of a sudden we're having all of these types of books, LGBTQ, all of these porn books. They weren't there when I was a kid. They weren't there when my kids were kids. They were not there before. So where are we getting this? All right, so now they're indoctrinating our kids. Is it the cabal running this? Is it everybody else getting paid? I don't know. I don't know where these books are coming from. We are so far away from what this country has been founded on. They are in your, oh yeah. Grooming elementary and junior high kids that they may be LGBTQ to eventually need an operation is insane. This is evil. These kids don't know whether they need an operation or not in elementary school and junior high school. And they shouldn't have to make those decisions. And they're not going to, but they get groomed to doing that. That's what we object. If this was not presented to you, you may not want it. And you grow out of it. We were tomboys. Well, we weren't a boy. So we grow out of it. And you've got to wait. The brains have not developed yet. They don't develop till in their 30s, in my opinion. And you got to be proud to be an American. You may not understand how all of this affects children, but they are in your hands. And it would be sad if they committed suicide or had an operation that wish they didn't. This didn't happen when we grew up. Why now? This is evil. Thank you.
Brent Maddox.
Good evening. CISD is filled with a wide breadth of intelligent, sincere staff, teachers, admin, and parents that are very experienced and familiar with their schools, the district, their policies, and operations. That last part is what I want to draw your attention to, the very experienced and familiar part. But and those experienced voices should be listened to, they should be valued. But whether we are speaking about board policy or high school course guides or bus delay emails or any other aspect, large or small, of this district, new parents and caregivers are having that interaction with the district or reading that policy for the very first time. There is a true need to incorporate that immediate feedback from new parents and caregivers about their experiences with district operations, and not just from the negative complaints. Because if you sit back and you just wait for parent responses and parent feedback, all you're going to get is complaints. You're not going to get constructive feedback. You're not going to get positive interactions with those parents, and it just sets the tone with those new parents to be negative for possibly years. And I sincerely mean this. When a new parent or caregiver asks why, or simply complains about an issue or some happening of Conroe ISD, a response of that's policy, or that's just how we do it, or that's an unwritten rule, or we've always done it that way, it's probably a failure from the get-go. It's not a positive thing when we quote, it's policy for policy's sake. When something is done, whatever level, big or small, for policy's sake, it's probably not the best sake for the student. It's not the best sake for the school. It's not for the best sake, the district's sake. It's just for policy's sake. We need to get away from that, no matter how big or how small. And I could speak from my personal experiences, whether it's food allergy policies or high school course guides or whatever it may be, big or small, those have profound impacts on students, has profound impacts on the learning environment. And when we only listen to the experienced people, the experienced voices, we miss those new experiences, those new voices, and what could possibly come from listening to those new people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm going to call the three that didn't
Please.
respond. Everett O'Neill. Brittany Hubbard. Sunday Shibley. That's it.
All right, that concludes our citizen participation. Thank you to all those who came and voiced their opinion. We will now take about a 5-minute recess. We are back in session. The time is 7:39. Thank you for that break. Moving on to item 4, which is our consent agenda. I have had a request to pull item H. So are there any other items that need to be pulled? Hearing none, may I entertain a
Mr. President, I have a
motion?
motion to accept the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item H.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. And any opposed by the same sign. Motion carries. All right. Moving to item H is consider and approve contract with communities in schools. Dr. Knoll.
All right, I'll ask Dr. Taylor to come forward and present this item, please.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. Just to give you a little background about the purpose of Community in Schools, it is to build relationships that empower at-risk students to stay in school. Conroe ISD has collaborated with Communities in Schools for over a decade and believe the program is a worthwhile investment for our students. Campuses are selected to participate in the program based on the size of the school's at-risk student population and the number of available site coordinators that Communities in Schools provides. With parent permission, the site coordinator works with selected students and families to identify challenges the students face at school or at home and helps coordinate resources both inside and outside of the school to assist the student. Salaries for the site coordinators are paid in part by CIS and part by Conroe ISD. Just to give you a little more information about what a CIS coordinator does on campuses, it varies from campus to campus. There is a huge range of needs based on the community that the Community in Schools person serves. And some of the things they do include to help manage the Backpack Buddy program, which is where students who need food can take food home for the weekend. They help provide resource fairs to invite different organizations from our community to campuses to help talk to parents about those resources in the community. They help with attendance assistance. They provide attendance incentives. They call parents. They conduct home visits as needed by the campus. They help with behavior assistance, including lunch groups that focus on different topics such as conflict resolution and additional needs as coordinated with the campus counselor. They help with academic assistance and track grades of the students that are on their caseload and serve as a representative to help call those parents and help those students stay on track. They provide social service needs in partnering with the community agencies to provide all of the basic needs such as food, clothing, and school supplies. They assist the campus with increasing parental involvement by hosting some of the parent nights for our campuses. They run the food pantries at many of our campuses by keeping them stocked and connecting with the Montgomery County Food Bank. They take care of a clothing closet that provides clothes for students and families in need. They also conduct a monthly mobile market, which is a drive-through grocery assistance for families that need food. And they also align with the needs of different campuses based on the goals of those campuses. And these are just some of the duties that some of the Communities in Schools coordinators help provide. Yeah.
Okay. We open it up to any questions?
Mr. President, I motion that we approve consent item H.
Second.
We have a motion and discussion. Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this item?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
I thank you, Dr. Taylor, for that information, because that was one of my questions that I asked Dr. Knoll about today was, could you, tell me what do they do? Because I knew that how they interacted on campus, but I didn't really know what all it included, and so I thank you for that information. It's not necessarily a question for you.
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Could you pull the mic a little closer?
I was trying to not be so loud tonight.
Maybe just a little closer. You can pull it just a little closer. There you go. I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
That was a goal of mine tonight, was to not be so loud. So obviously I achieved that. So anyway, what I do have a concern, or part of my discussion for tonight, is that in consulting outside counsel and in checking with our district council, we are open to a lot of liability based on the way the contract is, and that doesn't affect you per se. But and I would highly recommend that we possibly consult beyond for at least one paragraph in here, and it had to do with the indemnity clause, because while the indemnity clause on it does speak to the effect of that CIS will indemnify the district, it doesn't explicitly state that it will defend any counselors or any board members or administration or principals or anyone else that are sued, and it hasn't been held up in a court of law that they would be required to. So that being stated, I would just make that recommendation that we strengthen that one paragraph. That would be one of the two things that I had for tonight's discussion.
Okay. Ms. Kalatis, could you speak to that at all? What kind of liability do we have?
Sure. I reviewed the contract at Ms. Odenwiller's request, and I find the provision to be proficient in the contract. We enjoy broad immunities, as you know, under Texas law, and we have our own insurance coverage, and we would choose to provide our own defense if there was a lawsuit brought against the district and seek indemnification for the costs of that from them. We would not want them to provide a defense for us.
Okay. So is there a, as far as a board member being sued for having communities in schools, is there an issue with that?
Well,
I know anybody can sue for anything. I understand. I get that.
Yes. I am not aware of a board member being individually sued for anything arising out of a CIS, or really, not to unlock a genie or set some bad juju out in the world, but we've never had board members individually sued. In the time I have been here at Conroe ISD, it would be the district as an entity that they would sue, and we would provide, the district has insurance coverage and a defense for that.
Okay. And CIS is operating under our guidelines. They have their own program, and they operate under our guidelines, and therefore our insurance and our indemnification covers us as that as well. Is that correct?
And they also, are approved through TEA, as a TEA supports and enters into a contract with them as well to provide services to school districts in Texas.
Okay. Okay. Well, that answers that. Are there any other questions, Ms. Oldenwell, or do you have anything else?
Yes. Sorry. Got to get used to this on-off button. My only other concern was to bring to the board's attention tonight is that when I asked about the consent that the parents give for CIS to reach out to or provide services to our students, when I asked further about that, I was told that if I'm reading this correctly, and it was a lot to take in very quickly, was that it's done in the school handbooks, correct? Okay, and it is in the elementary intermediate handbook on page 9 stated where when they sign the handbook, is that correct, that they're approving that?
So the handbook contains the required notice under federal law for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And one of the exceptions to FERPA for written parent consent for access to student education records is if you have a legitimate business interest and you are like a contractor with the district. And CIS obviously would be a contractor if the contract is approved. And on page 9 in the elementary intermediate and on page 40 in the secondary handbook, it lists some of the specific vendors that we do business with who do receive student information to perform the service that we contract with them. So communities and schools is provided specifically. So when parents receive that notification and they sign that they have received the handbook, whether they sign or not, they receive it, then we can provide information, student education records to them under FERPA.
Is there? Oh,
I'm sorry. I want to ask a clarifying question, if that's okay. Just, Dr. Taylor, but on the campus level, for the CIS workers, do they not seek specific parental permission when they begin to work with a child?
Yes, they do. They have a caseload that they have to manage, and so they do have their own consent under the guidelines of the caseload, because that's when they, for lack of better words, are like a faux guardian for the student. And so that's when they make that connection with the student and the family. They have to get that consent, because then they're working with them on grades, attendance, behavior, and they do that anyway in the course of their duties, but to be on their caseload, they get permission from parents.
Dr. Taylor, and you might have mentioned this before, but can you clarify how a student is identified to be on someone's caseload?
Yes, there's multiple ways. I was a CIS worker and I had one as an administrator.
Okay.
There's multiple ways. We look at students, and you may have heard us talk about leading indicators and looking at students in low SES homes and trying to identify students who are at risk of dropping out of school. So campuses have their process in place, and I might have a student who may have been retained once or twice, or who may have had discipline issues for multiple years. They may come from a single family home. There's different ways to identify, and campuses identify based on what they need for their campus. And then they submit some names to communities and schools to consider for their caseload, and that's how their caseload is built.
So communities, excuse me, CIS, it fulfills a need, a requirement or a need that we have as a district, correct?
Yes.
So if we decide not to employ CIS, is there a financial impact to the school district if we choose not to accept this contract?
Yes, we looked at a position that would be comparable to the services that communities and schools would provide. And since we only pay a portion of their salary currently, if we decided to go with that position, the cost included with benefits would be over $1 million. Currently, the portion of their salary that we pay for the 16 communities and schools workers is $424,000. So that would be the difference between those two amounts.
And that 424 is a shared cost, is that right?
Yes.
Right.
That is our version. That is our
version.
Our cost of the shared cost. Yes. So if we were to bring, let's just say we made a decision in the future to hire those folks as social workers, as Conroe ISD employees completely, that would be that $1 million, a little over $1 million at the current.
Who's paying the difference?
Communities and schools.
Okay.
They pick it up. So, but that would be, if we don't do it, then would that $1 million cost would be absorbed almost immediately? Like, would we need to open up spots immediately?
Or we would lose the position.
And we'd lose those positions.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Taylor, how long has community and schools been contracted with CISD?
I think it's been approximately 15 years. I have tons of records. They go back to 2006. So that's, from my documentation, goes back to 2006.
I can speak anecdotally. I was a junior high principal in 2006 and had a CIS worker. So that was my first year as principal. So I don't know if they were there before, but I had a CIS on my campus.
That's a long time.
Yes.
Do you know, like, approximately how many students have been impacted?
I don't have an exact number, but I mean, I can just say a lot. Because what happens in those cases, they do have a caseload, but they also help other kids that are not on their caseload. You know, prime example, Conroe High School had one of the best communities and schools coordinators, Mr. Primer, I'll say his name. He was so amazing. He did so many things for the kids on his caseload, in addition to many kids on that campus. He had boys groups. He helped mentor students, helped teach them about college, and that's what a lot of them do. They go above and beyond the caseload of kids that they service.
I will just say also anecdotally, I was in one of the campuses and there was a community and school person there coordinating the Backpack Buddy program, and it was really great because they were collecting backpacks from the different classrooms and putting if y'all don't know, it's where there's a donation of shelf-stable food products that go in these backpacks. Anyway, they had collected the backpacks and were putting in the food there and then zipping it back up and putting them back in the classrooms, right? So there was no like visibility, right, to the other kids in the classroom that you were part of this Backpack Buddy program and that you were getting, you know, food and stuff. And I just thought that was just really great program, and I'm glad that we would have someone in our school that could help like coordinate that and do that. So thank you for the information.
I'd just like to add, Dr. Taylor, I really appreciate you and all the efforts that you guys put forth to make sure that this effort, this Communities in Schools stays a vibrant program. They do so much. And I went to the awards banquet, and I saw a lot of those folks, including Mr. Marcus Primer, who won Humanitarian of the Year award from their various schools. So it's a testament to the services they provide and the impact that they're making. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to vote.
I still didn't get a complete answer to my question.
Would you mind restating
Yes,
your
sir.
question?
What I really want to know is that I asked several parents about if they were aware that when they signed their handbook, or were they aware of CIS in the schools? Some were, some weren't, and it depends on, what their needs were. But is there any written consent done between the parent and CIS or CISD before a student receives services? I think it's very important that we're just clear on that. And if it's there, that's great. I just want to make sure that we are clearly defining, not just putting it on page 9 and 40, that they are aware of it.
Yes, there is a consent form. I've seen one, I've signed one myself. I've had plenty of them in place. They are put together by the Communities and Schools worker because they also have to account for the students that they work for. They have a caseload manager out of the East Texas division, and they look at the number of kids that they serve, and you have to have permission to have that child on your caseload. You just can't say I'm servicing 30 kids and CIS takes your word for it. You have to have proof, your documentation. They actually write out a plan. They do have all of that information documented, and they have to have it documented. That's one of the things that they complain about a lot, is the amount of paperwork that has to be done by a community district.
And then the last question on that is, if they're not actually in a documented service between a parent and the student and CIS, do they have access to other students' records, backgrounds, etc.?
Yes.
So they have full access even though they don't
They can access, view it, they can pull up kids, they can check attendance for the entire campus, and that's how they help in other ways of kids that are not on their caseload.
Okay, so.
Thank you. Move the vote, Mr. President.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, I call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. I will say it's a positive and a negative aspect of CIS. Unfortunately, they don't make as much money as they should. And we do get some folks that are amazing that come in, and I'll just speaking of my time as principal at Conroe High School, I had a community and schools worker by the name of Mr. Spivey, and he was awesome. Alex Spivey, he was great. He was so great, I talked him into going and finishing his teaching certification so I could hire him as a teacher. But we ended up hiring him as a teacher. I think Hartwell Bryan hired him at Washington Junior High at the time, and like his second year of teaching, he was the teacher of the year on the campus. So it's not built as a pipeline for teachers for us, but occasionally it does become that for us a little bit. So
very good. All right. Thank you for that. All right, moving on to item 5A, receive attendance zone update for elementary school in the Caney Creek High School and Conroe High School attendance zones.
All right, Mr. Chris McCord.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, I'm here tonight to give you an update on the attendance boundary creation process for Bartlett Elementary School. Bartlett Elementary is opening in August of 2024. It'll be a 950-seat school. It'll be two-story, very similar to the last few elementary schools that we've constructed. I'll have some pictures in the following slides just to give you a look at how it's coming along and what it will look like from the front. We anticipate it serving students pre-K through 4. They'll be located on Cielo Drive in Conroe. If you go to Google Maps now and you want to look at Cielo Drive, you will not find it. However, if you were to go to Google Maps and look at Pine Acre Trails, which is a subdivision, it's just immediately north of Pine Acre Trails. It'll give you a great idea of where it is, and I'll send you some pictures here in just a second. I want to thank a committee. We have a committee of 44 people. We had our first kickoff meeting for the zoning process for Bartlett last Thursday. We met right behind me in the boardroom here. 44 people composed of parents, principals, and district staff members. And we met for quite a while. We delivered a lot of information. They had a great attitude, good questions, a lot of patience, and they had a whole lot of homework before our next meeting. We'll be meeting over the next 4 or 5 months to present and come to you with the best possible scenario that we can create. And so with that, what are our objectives? So our objective, our primary objective number one, and the most obvious one, and the one that's been done for basically every school that's being created in the district, is to develop an attendance boundary to populate Bartlett Elementary, while at the same time preserving some campus capacity for future growth of the facility within the area. It's the second half of that objective, which is challenging, but we'll meet that challenge. The second objective is to provide overcrowding relief to Caney Creek and Conroe feeder elementary campuses that are most over capacity, primarily in the north, but there are ones within the Caney Creek feeder and the Conroe feeder. I would also probably need to stop at this moment and just remind that the district visualizes at some point that we will build a high school on East Loop 336. But that high school, it will need to have a feeder zone created, just like all the other high schools have, whether it be College Park or the Woodlands, Oak Ridge, Caney Creek, Grand Oaks, etc. So we do not know which campuses would occupy that potential high school at some point, but it would ultimately be your decision. So they are currently all in the Caney Creek and Conroe feeders, and I'll give you a better look at them both visually on a map and a table that shows you where they are in numbers momentarily. Here's a picture, and this will look similar to our recent additions, such as such as Gordon Reed and Hines and Suchma. And we look at it here, you will see that the difference will be the front entryway. So this is the front entryway as part of a computer rendering. And if you look here, this is looking at it in real life from the air of a drone. And behind me would be Pine Acre Trails. I'm looking here from the south, looking due north. Off behind me, a little ways to the left, would be the airport. So this gives you a good look at what it looks like. You'll see the iconic two-story structure that we've come to know over the last, I believe, 4 schools. And you'll also see what I'm most excited about every time I stand up here to start the zoning process, the ample and I think parent-like queuing space for them. So that's exciting. So why is this process challenging? Well, it's challenging for a lot of reasons, and I will not read the PowerPoint presentation to you, but I will tell you that the one I will emphasize at this point is the last bullet, the bullet in blue, and that this is the last elementary school in the northern Caney Creek and Conroe feeder areas to be constructed in the near future. I'm going to show you data over the next few slides, which will show you that this is not the end of this movie as far as building elementary schools to serve this area. However, it is for now, and I will tell you as part of the 2023 bond construction package, the bond planning committee considered a lot of things. And an elementary school in this area was part of what was looked at. It finished just outside of the 8, which we came to you and you approved, but I will show you data that will show you at some point there will need to be an additional elementary school or elementary schools in the north. So I will show that to you in the following slides. I'm not going to overanalyze this goal or our zoning goals. You can read each line, but I will tell you the primary mission is to reduce the enrollment at overcrowded campuses. That's the primary reason that we build additional schools. For this slide, the considerations, I will show you one that's important to us, and that is geographical proximity. Our goal, to the extent possible, is to have kids be able to attend the school and families be able to attend the school that is close to where they live, eat, sleep, and play. I will also tell you, and this is completely applicable here, especially in the Crockett-Martin area, that transportation patterns also matter. It is sometimes the school that you look at that's closest as the crow flies is not the campus that's closest for you to attend or be able to travel to via car or bus. But what we have in our favor is we have 44 people, including many parents, that live in the area, sleep in the area, and know everything about the roads and how to traverse the paths of East County and Conroe. So we'll be pulling on their input to make a good decision for you. And having brought that up about that decision, our goal is to bring to you a recommendation in January. So we'll come to you in January as we do really every year. And so we'll ask for your approval, but we anticipate bringing you a recommendation that you'll be proud of. We have a whole lot of work to do in the next 4 or 5 months to get there. I want to show you a slide, really a series of slides that show you as we begin the process what we'll be looking at. This is part of the PASA report, but just to bring out here as a point of emphasis, Silverthorne, SF, is not square footage. Okay, that is single family homes. It's worthy of note as a factoid of interest that for every single-family home, we average 0.56 students that attend Conroe ISD. Silverthorne is in the Anderson zone. If you look here at Pine Acre Trails, which is real proximal to Bartlett Elementary, that's going to be in the Patterson zone. Signorelli Tract is now known as CLO, and CLO will have, you'll see 840 single-family homes. That is in the Patterson zone also. Sweetwater Ridge by LGI Homes, I believe, is in the Austin zone. Spring Branch Crossing is in the Milam zone. And then down south on 242, you'll see Artavia, you'll see Mavera and Evergreen. All three of those at the current moment all feed into San Jacinto Elementary. So on that note, it's also worth bringing up that manufactured home communities are growing fast in our area. And you'll see in the far east, especially Spring Branch Crossing, you'll see there are also manufactured homes coming quickly in that area. Also up along 105, Crockett Trace Estates, just north of 105, not too far from Austin Elementary, and also Forest Trace Court. We get a lot of students through those manufactured home communities in those areas represented in pink, or the more complicated term, I think that'd be magenta. If you look here, this kind of summarizes it with real students. And these are just elementary students. These are not secondary students. But if you look here, I'm going to do a quick around the horn for a couple of slides. But if you look here, Anderson is currently over capacity. In the next 9 years, it expects to grow over 700 students. Patterson, over 900 students. Austin, just under 1,000 students. It's all these are over capacity. Creighton's over capacity. And 365, you're like, well, that's a lot better than 1,000. But the issue is Creighton right now is at 152% of capacity with 16 portables as I stand before you tonight. Milam Elementary, just under 1,000 students. We do have some capacity at the moment at Milam, so we're going to be really wary of addressing it too much and bringing people south, because we know that we're looking at nearly 1,000 students in the next 9 years coming to Milam Elementary. San Jacinto, we talked about Mavera, Evergreen, and we looked right here at Artavia. You can see it's 1,700 students. Wilkinson, I'm not supposed to play favorites about which campus is the most attractive. But for years, Wilkinson was in the short list of discussion. But trees are coming down quickly. Home divisions or subdivisions are going up. And you can see that you're all looking at mid-700s at Wilkinson. A special note at Runyon. Runyon's over 300 students. Runyon's over capacity, but Runyon's a small school. Once again, Reeves will also gain nearly 200 students, but Reeves is also over capacity in a very small school. This gives you a snapshot look at it. It shows you the year built, the capacity, the enrollment as of September 7th of this year, and the capacity percentage that the campus was at as of September 7th this year. I could highlight all of them, but I would take too much of your time. But Creighton obviously stands out, along with Austin, Patterson, where the school actually, where Bartlett actually resides, Runyon. So that's all there for you. Those are most approaching or over capacity. This is a unique slide that we created for you tonight. And this slide combines two things. It shows you the complete Caney Creek High School elementary feeder pattern in the zones of those schools. And it shows you a partial elementary pattern for Conroe High School. It doesn't show the far west because we can't reach that far west. It's not even in play. But if you look, you'll see where Bartlett Elementary is in what I would call the goldish color at the top. Bartlett Elementary, that is in the Patterson zone. If you go around clockwise, just so you put a name with the zone, you'll see Austin in pink, Creighton in green, Milam in blue, Hope in purple, San Jacinto at the very bottom in that beigeish color. You'll see Wilkinson in green. At the far left or west, you'll see BB Rice in that 45-75 corridor in the middle. You'll see in pink, you'll see Armstrong. You'll see Sam Houston in green. At the top left, you'll see Reeves in blue. And also at the very top up north, just to the east of 75, you'll see Anderson Zone. So all of these have members on the committee. We'll be looking at them throughout the process.
Can you go back for me 1 second? I'd just like to make, just to give you a reference, and we talked about this is likely to be in the new high school feeder, and just to kind of show the new high school, I believe I'm right here, Ms. McCord? Is that right there?
South, yeah.
Right,
real close.
right in there? Yeah, so that's where the new high school will be. That's where we have the land at Patterson, Bosman, Stockton site there, just to kind of give you just a little bit of reference as you look at this. Bless you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll be we'll have 4 community presentations to give information to people that want to hear it. We'll have 2 conveniently over Zoom, and we'll have 2 live and in-person boots on the ground at Austin Elementary. The first one coming up is October 10th, and that is not in the far too distant future. We'll have a number of people there to give information, and then I'll be presenting at all 4 of those. I'll be coming back to see you. You'll see some of these slides again. I'll attack them from different angles just so you'll hear some new information. But coming back in November, December, and ultimately the plans are to come back in January with a recommendation for you. I will tell you that tomorrow, if you get up early, you start hitting refresh, our boundary website will be open for Bartlett Elementary. At that website, you'll be able to see frequently asked questions. You'll be able to see attendance boundaries. You'll be able to provide feedback if you want to give feedback on the process. You'll see scenarios that are in play. You'll see scenarios that are not in play. Well, at this moment, they're all in play, but at some point they will not be. But you'll also be able, if you have a whole lot of time on your hands, to create your own scenarios and upload them to us for the consideration. All the feedback that we get will be given to the committee, to me, and to you. So you'll be provided all that feedback as it all leads up to that exciting meeting in January when we recommend, hopefully, a scenario for the Bartlett initial attendance boundary. That's what I have for you tonight for Bartlett Elementary zoning, and if there's any questions, I'll do my best.
Any questions?
Bless you.
All right.
Bless you.
Bless you.
A lot of blessings.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Oh, there's more.
Well, he's
It's
just
item
next.
B,
He's saving steps. He's got the next item as well.
Item B is consider and approve interlocal agreement with the Woodlands Township related to decommissioned school buses.
All right, Mr. McCord.
So I'm here tonight to ask for your approval of the submitted memorandum of the interlocal agreement between the Conroe Independent School District and the Woodlands Township. This agreement entails us allowing the township to utilize 4 unserviceable and unusable buses for the township for their fire department personnel to have access to for safety training. All 4 buses have been completely cannibalized of all usable parts. For us, the benefits are really fourfold, including, number 1, a local agency servicing our students will be able to hone their skills addressing any potential future school bus related events practicing on real school buses. 2, we will recoup 4 bus parking slots at the Conroe Transportation Center where parking slots are a commodity in very high demand. 3rd, the township at their expense will take the training buses to a recycling center at the conclusion of training, which is forecast to be between 6 months and a year, for them to be disposed. And then ultimately, CISD will still receive the scrap value for these buses upon the completion of training and recycling by the township. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the request.
President, I'll make a motion that we accept this proposal as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and questions. I think Ms. Nelson has something.
I just had a quick question. I'm on, right? Okay.
Yes.
You said the decommissioned buses are unusable. They're just sort of in the yard, correct?
Correct. Taking
Okay.
up space.
And if the Woodlands, I think it's amazing. I think it's great that they're able to do this, run drills and go through real life situations in the buses. I'm curious, are other fire departments able to use the buses as well? Do they combine forces at all that other parts of our district can participate?
We have done this before. So it's a combination of symbiotic relationship of them making the request and then us having buses available. As our bus fleet's getting older, it's very possible that we will have buses available like this in the future. You know, just to put it in perspective without going into too much detail, one of the buses that was totaled, another was totaled and it was burned, and 2 were cannibalized due to age and need for parts. So these are buses that really aren't serving us in any way, shape, or form. We have 113 parking spots at the Conroe Transportation Center that are formal parking spots for buses. Between buses that we need to find a place to park and people that work at the Conroe Transportation Center, we have 340 needs for spaces for people and or buses to park. So what we do is we take the Conroe Transportation Center and then we occupy TAC, which is the testing center immediately adjacent to it, and also sometimes infringe a little bit on Armstrong Elementary. We try to take care of them. They're very nice. So That's kind of our approach.
And we are in the process of expanding, doing some work at the Conroe Center as well, correct?
We're working on the Conroe Center, having some administrative offices. We're not gaining too many parking spaces.
Easy's going to show us that, I think,
No.
a little bit. And
We are gaining parking spaces at the East County Transportation Center. I believe it's 100, is it not, Mr. Foster? So.
could I ask one more question?
Yeah, I was just curious
okay.
if other fire departments are able to participate. That was really.
They are, and they have before. It's just now
thank
it's the
you.
township.
Yeah.
Do we have any more buses available? Like, if we were to be contacted tomorrow by City of Conroe, like, do we have more? Are these the only 4 decommissioned buses we currently have, or do we have more available? I guess
I would have to hypothesize.
Okay.
I do not know for sure.
Okay,
That's a good question.
Curious.
I wouldn't doubt that we do, but I don't know for sure.
Right. Okay.
And also too, and this might be another conversation, but is the life cycle of the buses built into the budgeting, and then like what we're going to get for scrap for all of that, is that all built in, or is it just null and void and goes away?
The money that we'll get for scrap will be negligible, but it will be something.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest issue we face right now on buses is that over a third of the fleet has passed its recommended age.
Mm-hmm.
And recommended age for our fleet is a little different than a normal district, because a normal district, they drive a route, one run. We drive 3 runs.
Right.
So we age quickly, but we don't look it, but we do. That's but
what do you mean?
So right now, as far as acquiring buses, we acquire buses through grants, which there's some money there for grants. It's not overly significant, but there is some. We're hoping that more comes, but the majority of the money that we have to purchase buses comes from bonds. And so I talked, maybe it was at this group or another group, we don't have a current bid, but we have an informal quote that we got about a month ago, and you're looking at $149,500 for a 77 passenger air-conditioned bus.
Mm-hmm.
So the money goes fast when it costs that much money.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
I'd love to see it built into the budget.
Yeah. We have, when we buy buses, in this bond, currently we have $12 million for the purchase of new buses. As mentioned, with the escalating costs, that's not going to go as far as you might think that it would. When we buy buses, we finance them for 10 years. We always pay a bus off in 10 years, but the average age of our fleet, or the average use years for a bus for us before it's decommissioned, is probably closer to 20.
Correct. 15 is the maximum life that's recommended. We go over that, as we do with much of our infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I think that's great.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just one quick question. How many buses is a third of our fleet? About how many buses does that represent?
A third of the fleet would probably be around 200 buses if you counted everything.
200 buses,
Yes.
okay.
So we have 384 routes, and those routes are composed of multiple runs. So it gives you a little bit of an overview. So, and we've been working to have air-conditioned buses for all our children, and trying to keep those air-conditioned buses working.
And if you may remember this better from the bond presentations, since you gave this presentation, but I believe that in 5 years, 2/3 of our buses are going to be outside of their recommended age. So we're with 5, so we'll get some with this, with the purchase of new buses. We'll get a little younger, but we have a lot that'll be aging.
Okay. Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. And the motion is to approve the interlocal agreement with the Woodlands Township related to decommissioning school buses. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion shall be uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? And the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 6, teaching and learning. Item A, receive the 2022-2023 School Health Advisory Council report and appoint members to the 2023-2024 School Health Advisory Council.
All right, we'll ask Dr. Upshaw to come forward to present this item. I want to, while she's coming up, I want to just say a big thank you to Dr. Upshaw for her leadership and working with the SHAC. I think she's done an amazing job, and I'd say the same thing about Dr. Spear and her work as the chair. I think that we've seen a lot of maturation of our processes and our just really the partnership and where this can go. I think it's because of the hard work of both of these two great individuals. So appreciate you both.
Thank you very much, sir. President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. In this portion of our agenda tonight, we present to you two items. The first item is to receive the SHAC annual report, and the second item is to appoint the members for the SHAC of the next school year. Dr. Knoll has included additional information in your board book that was submitted by the SHAC for you to have access to. Annually, the state law and also our board policy BDF requires the SHAC to submit an annual report to the District Board of Trustees. And the Texas Education Code 28004 outlines the following requirements to be included in the report. Those things include any recommendations by the SHAC regarding health curriculum and instruction that hasn't been previously reviewed by the board. In addition, any modifications and recommendations previously submitted to the board. So we had submitted something to you, but we've changed it. That's something that's required for us to share. A detailed explanation of the SHAC's activities, what we did all year long, how busy we've been, and any recommendation made by the Physical Activity and Fitness Planning Subcommittee, which is a subsection of the SHAC. Again, as mentioned, attached in your board book is a report that was prepared this school year by our Dr. Bryce Beer, our SHAC chair. She has joined us in the audience tonight. So if you have any questions on the SHAC annual report, she is available for you.
Any questions? I know we've had a
That's just a receipt. Got me. I knew it was going to get me, and it got me. We're just receiving that report, right? There doesn't need to be a vote on the report. It's just receiving.
Correct.
Okay.
But if we have questions on the report, this is the time to ask.
Yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You just don't have to vote on that
Right.
portion.
So, Ms. Holdeman, if you have questions on this report, feel free to ask at this time. Okay. No questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the other item to discuss is the appointment of the members of the SHAC for this next school year. In your book, in your board book, you received the information for the SHAC membership process for this year's appointment. In addition to their information, the district administration has included a list of both campus and school district administrators for you to consider to appoint also to the members of the SHAC. So at this time, we do ask for you to make a motion on that or to take a vote, and we are here for your questions.
So just to, I want to clarify just to make sure that you all understand exactly what you've received in the board book, so there's not confusion.
Right.
The members of the SHAC have brought forth their list. I believe it's 31 that they are requesting people to be placed upon the SHAC. Dr. Upshaw, district administration, has made an addendum to that, not changed any of the names submitted by the SHAC, but has provided a second list that is an administrative recommendation to also be considered for the SHAC. That request was not made by the SHAC, it was made by administration. I just want to make sure that there's clarity on who made what request. Okay.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion so we can have discussion.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to move that the Board of Trustees approve the recommended membership list for the 2023-2024 SHAC Committee as presented by administration and by the SHAC Committee. Make clear that all members of the SHAC Committee have equal voting rights and that Dr. Edith Upshaw will serve as an equal co-chair of the SHAC Committee along with a parent co-chair selected by the full SHAC Committee.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All right, any discussion? Okay.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Yes, I'd
Yes,
like
ma'am.
to call Dr. Bryce or Dr.
Absolutely.
Spear to the microphone, please. Hi, thank you. Let me make sure you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for all the work you did last year. I know that you all have made a lot of progress. Who was responsible for advertising the application process and the application window that was mentioned for the SHAC council members?
The advertisement for the SHAC membership window being open from May 1st through June 30th was taken on by Dr. Upshaw to use district resources electronically in all the campuses, all the buildings, anywhere that she could get the word out. She was able to advertise.
Was there any online notice that went out to?
It was on the online, it was on the Shack webpage. Okay, yeah, it was on the Shack webpage. So, and then there also was some flyers that had been made too. I know there was one posted at this entrance. There's many at the Jet Center and all the campuses.
And what was the date that the window closed? Was it
June 30th? The application window was open for 60 days.
Okay.
So May 1st to June 30th.
And then during that 2-month period,
Yeah.
there was ample time for anyone within the district, administrators,
Yes.
to see
anyone
that.
anyone could fill out an application. It was easy to access. We switched it to electronic this year. Last year it was a written application that had to be scanned and emailed back or sent by U.S. Postal Service. So we transitioned that application to be electronic, so you could just click a link, or if you wanted to download it, you could do that. But that the process was, we felt much more in the times of how people access information.
Estimated, how long would it have taken to fill out the application?
Probably 5 minutes, maybe, or less. Just, there was a lot of clicking. There's one free text line or box, if you will, where parents or applicants or whoever wanted to apply could state what their area of interest was and what they felt to be pertinent if they were serving on the Shack.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you explain why the district employees needed to fill out an application?
Sure. The membership process was revised this year. We took the prior membership process and some of the feedback from the parents and the committee members were that the process of being able to be on the Shack wasn't transparent. And so we addressed that by making an application window, making sure everyone knew that it was there, involved the district, and making sure the word got out. And we felt like it was important that in this legislative council that district employees knew that this was a volunteer thing and that we wanted them to apply so that we could also understand what their areas of interest were.
Mm-hmm. And then how many people overall applied to be considered for the Shack committee?
We had 4 district personnel and all 4 were taken. And our totals were 24 parents total. 24 total applied. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
How many were accepted?
Of the 24, we had to turn away 5 parents. We balanced the parent selection on feeder zones. So the way our membership process, that when the committee met, our first stop was looking at all the district folks and sliding them right in with really no discussion, just taking that and taking those people that had stepped up to the plate to serve and put them on the roster. And then the remaining spots, we looked at feeder zones to see how many feeder zone spots we had versus returning members, and then balance that with what we felt like was reasonable representation from school size. And so the bigger schools had more representatives, the smaller schools had less.
This is go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is an advisory committee, correct?
We're an advisory council.
Council committee?
Yes,
okay, my apologies. What's the hesitation, or is there a hesitation to accept the administration's recommendation to put whatever the amendment is on the panel, the committee, the council?
Sure. Well, the membership subcommittee could only make decisions on those people that had applied. So the district folks that are now being recommended didn't apply. There was no conversation from the district that they wanted to be on it. So we proceeded with business as usual. And then shortly after this started to come into motion, then these names came over to the Shack. So we had already completed our work and didn't have any of those names or information to do that.
So my question, let me finish. My question is, what would be your hesitation from adding these to the list? Adding the folks that the district is recommending. What is your objection? Other than they didn't apply timely, understanding that was added to your bylaws that administration has to apply.
So the objection is that they didn't follow the membership selection process. So that if you didn't apply, you couldn't be on it. So that's where we're at with that. It's not at all to undervalue
the expertise that the district employees have. We value that, and we want the involvement. But when a body goes through and creates the guidelines that we're working by to make sure we're showing everyone and following the rules, then if the district, this isn't, the want is for our district employees to be engaged and to, and to be a part of it. So I don't know if that's answering that or not.
Kind of, sort of, but it's not really. So
Okay.
I'm looking at the overarching purpose of what the committee's put there for.
Yeah.
And it's to assist administration in advising the board as to appropriate action to be taken by this council.
Yes, sir.
And when we're saying we essentially want to disenfranchise, as I interpret it, I know that's not what you said and may not be your intent, but how I'm interpreting is that the district is not able to participate because of a bylaw change that they didn't get in on time that was put in place by the committee. It seems as if though we're not working as a partnership.
Well, the bylaw change came as a whole shack. So the bylaw subcommittee worked together at the district. Dr. Upshaw was part of that process. We met several times. So the full shack, which contained had also district representation, was part of that bylaw process. So I'm not really sure what else to tell you other than the process in place was approved by the district employees that were on the committee at the time. On the full shack, because the bylaw subcommittee made the revisions. There were multiple emails sent. There were multiple QA sessions set up where people could come bring their feedback. We tracked the suggested modifications to the bylaws. It was a really extensive process. We talked about it at multiple meetings. So the district employees that were on the shack voted to approve those bylaw changes.
So, Dr. Spear, is it your desire that they not participate at all? That you don't want these district resources employees to be involved in shack at all?
No, that's not the desire at all, actually. One of the things that really bubbled up this year is how busy our administrators are and the work they do. And so if you look at other districts that are really big, like if you look at Houston ISD and the way their shacks are set up, or their shack is set up, what they do is they bring on a lot of district experts, subject matter experts, and they put them into non-voting roles so that they can come and speak and present a compelling, pro-con argument, if you will. I don't feel like we've had a lot of arguments on the shack, but they can come and share their information, share their expertise, and it's less time consuming than having to come to to all the major meetings. So
my follow-up to that, Dr. Spear, would be, are you saying you don't want to accept these 12? I realize you already turned away 5 parents,
right,
and now we would be saying, okay, come on, 12 district employees or whatever. But are you saying you don't want to take them in this year, or is there an option to bring them in and be non-voting because they're a subject matter expert?
And Dr. Upshaw and I had talked about, as we grow the shack this year, creating these bodies of experts that can come in with topics or come in with questions and help weigh this and provide valuable feedback so that we can navigate these waters. The intent never has been for the shack not to be engaged with district employees. The participation of some of the persons hasn't been optimal, and that makes it hard to work together.
I want to complete my frame of thought, but
sure.
So what I'm hearing is you're protecting the administration from a heavier burden.
Partly.
To a degree,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So you're helping them help themselves kind of approach, right?
Yes, sir.
Get that. The folks that you turned down, the parents that you turned down, did you give them the option to come in from an advisory position and be non-voting as well?
We didn't have that. The short answer is no. We didn't have that set up. And we didn't have this issue when we made those choices for the membership selection.
So again, my original concern was it seemed like we were disenfranchising the folks that are on a committee. If they're on a committee and there's district employees, why wouldn't you want them to have a vote in what goes on for an advisory council that's going to present to us the best position, what's best position for the district and our students?
I just will go back that they did not apply to join the shack, so it's a little bit hard to, it's hard from a parent.
Past that, let's just assume they did. What would be the concern?
So if you have $5 and I want your $5, I got to work real hard to get you to convince you that you should give me that thing that you want. Okay, when you bring in subject matter experts and they really feel like they have a heart or a desire that they really want to see something happening, I think it is in the best interest of the presenter to present such a compelling argument that the people who hear it have no other choice but to merge and come into the fold.
So now we're saying we want our district employees to exert a certain level of passion, if you will, in order for them to earn their right, if you will, to vote.
No, sir.
Or
There's no earning
a
or voting. Sorry.
I'm at a loss of what we're trying to accomplish here, but I rest. I'll yield my time to someone else.
Ms. Nelson.
Dr. Spears, thank you. Last year, there were district employees on the shack, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And were they, how did they get on last year?
We don't know.
Appointed.
I mean, all the members for the all the members that went to the roster for the board, there was not a process that was.
Were they voting members?
They were, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They were appointed.
No. I don't think that was her question. I think maybe
No.
if I misunderstood your
how
question.
were they
Her question
on?
was, how did they get on this on the shack committee? And the answer is the board appointed them, just like we'll appoint this year.
Right, I misunderstood her question. I thought she was asking how was that membership list generated, and my answer was I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and I was just going back, I did notice that it was a zoning or something that Mr. McCord gave, where there was a list of committee members for the zoning, and there was employees that were non-voting members. I don't think it's uncommon to have it in that.
It is not at all. If you, like I had mentioned before, if you look at shacks throughout the state that have a need for more input, it's pretty common to see that. Our shack is big compared to what's recommended for Texas DSHS. So, and that was feedback from some district employees last year that the shack was so big. That's why we went and tried to figure out what would be an appropriate number for, our shack.
What is? Oh, sorry.
Melissa, please.
So, Dr. Spear, how many members is the shack? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. How many members are y'all submitting for approval?
We're submitting to fill the roster to a full 31. I'll pull up the recommended new members.
While you do that, of that 31, what percentage are district employees?
4 of the 31 are district employees. So,
can you tell me those 4?
Dr. Upshaw, Krista Casisio, Amber Bentley, and Erica Falcon.
Okay, so those 4 were the only 4 that applied through the application during that window?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are the rules about a district employee serving as a co-chair?
The Texas DSHS guide says that the chair of the council must be a parent.
And that's a state statute. That's a rule. That's a law.
Well, that's Texas DSHS. That's in their guide. I believe it's on page 8.
But does it say they can't be a co-parent? I mean, a co-chair?
I can read you the language from Texas DSHS.
And when you wrote your bylaws, did you take it basically from this this item that you're going to read? Is it word for word, or how did you go about putting together your new bylaws?
We went off of, so the Texas DSHS is a guide for shacks. And so what it does is it has all of the things that need to be in the bylaws. And so it tells you, what needs to be under each section. It doesn't give exact language on everything. A lot of it was pulled directly from that, but that's where that came from, was from Texas DSHS. And for school health advisory council members, it says the law also requires that a parent member serve as the chair or co-chair of the shack.
Oh, so chair or co-chair?
A parent member.
Parent member. So if somebody from the shack committee, whoever is elected to be
the co-chair along with Dr. Upshaw could serve as the other co-chair.
Well, I don't read that like that. If it says a parent serves as a chair or the co-chair, then if it's a co-chair and it must be a parent, then that's, to me, reads that it's two parents.
Okay, I don't necessarily read it that
That's
way.
how I
I just hear
understand
that it's two people.
Okay, that's okay.
So look, guys, I'm struggling here because I'm not understanding what we're trying to accomplish here. This is seemingly to be, from my perspective, like I mentioned before, I'm concerned that we're trying to disenfranchise the district from having a vote in what goes on with the committee that's going to advise us, one. And it seemingly seems like we got a little bit of undertone of a power struggle going on here, right? And that's causing me a bit of concern from a committee that we're supposed to be taking counsel from.
I understand what I understand what you're saying. I think it's from an accountability standpoint, if we're stepping into a council, regardless of parent, employee, whatever, pick a title and put it on the council, I think that the heart of the people needs to be to try to all play together by the same rules. And I don't think anyone should have a free pass to sidestep those. It doesn't look well when we have to turn away 5 parents and then we bring in 12 other people that didn't follow the process. And I hear you, please, I hear you in what you're saying. I can't make that choice as the chair. I can't override what our membership subcommittee and our full SHAC, went through the process and approved. That is not my role, and I can just be transparent on where we're at and what our bylaws call for us to do. But this in no way is meant to be disrespectful to the board or what your opinion is in any way, or into any of the district employees. I know that the teachers and the administrators that work with me with my kids, I adore them, and it's not at all. There really isn't any adversarial relationship with that. So I don't know how else to say that.
I know Ms. Wagman has
Yes.
a question.
So then if you were elected to serve as chair or co-chair, you'd be willing to work with Dr. Upshaw as a fellow co-chair. Is that what I'm hearing?
I will work with anyone. My professionalism will never be compromised.
Oh, I'm not challenging your professionalism. I'm just stating, after what you just stated, that it sounds as though if you were elected by the SHAC committee, you'd be willing to work with Dr. Upshaw as a co-chair.
Absolutely. She and I have worked very closely throughout this entire year.
Wonderful.
But not as a co-chair.
Huh?
She threw in co-chair.
Oh,
at
as
the
a,
end.
well, I can't.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Okay.
If
Can I
I'm,
have
please go
a
ahead.
Ms.
please?
Chase.
Yeah. So, because I think we're just like going around in a circle here. So I just have a few questions for you. Like, why is 31 the right number?
That's a great question. We generated 31 by looking at the other districts that were larger than ours to see where the numbers landed. And that's because Texas DSHS recommends 10 to 20.
Yeah.
Our committee our council last year was about 48, and feedback from the district coordinator and just throughout the year was that was way too big. It was very difficult to manage. So we did our homework to try to come up with what those numbers would look like in a district like ours if we extrapolated what other SHACs had done. And so that's where we came up with 31. We didn't pick 30 because that's an even number, so we picked 31.
And is it the experience that all members are active and going to all the meetings and participating and engaged and doing the work?
All members are not active and doing the work. There's a core group of people that consistently volunteer to do work.
Yeah.
And so
every team assignment I had in college.
But I know people are really busy, and the administrative responsibilities are a lot, and so we try to make it open where people can come on the committee or come on the subcommittees, do some work, join in, jump in, transition, all of it. It's always open.
Dr. Upshaw?
Oh,
okay. I'm like,
I do have a couple questions for Dr. Spear.
Can I just
Yes,
finish
no,
my
that's
train of
fine.
thought real quick?
Don't go far.
Dr. Upshaw, do you have a hypothesis on why district employees would not have applied during the application window?
One of the things that, when we look at district appointed committees or just district committees in general, when you look at the district level planning committee, and you also look at the school safety committee and the committee that was brought to you today, that's the attendance committee, this is an outlier process.
Yeah.
To have to apply as a district employee. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we've always been appointed in the past. I think one of the things that we did go back and forth, and Dr. Spear did communicate it to me that she could not circumvent the process because communication did go back and forth about the list that administratively will moving forward. I think one of the things that I just want to mention, out of the employees in CISD that applied, myself being one of them, I would be the only administrator, and I am a non-voting member according to their bylaws. So I am considered the SHAC coordinator, and that the reality is, and what we've shared is, just a great example of the work that they're doing is bringing forth to you mental health awareness with cell phones. And the feedback with that item was we need to have principal input. And so because of hearing that feedback, I hustled and personally called people and I said, I need you engaged. I called principals, I said, I need you to be part of this, and to be able to work that dream of what we want, to have those subcommittees where we could appoint this particular administrator. It's really hard to tell administrator we need you, but you don't have a vote or a say, when at the end of the day what we're recommending really lies on their shoulders to be implemented. So is it ideal the way that this situation is ended up? It is not. But I do think that it provides for us an ability as we move forward, that if that's something as a board that you choose that district administrators need to apply and they are not appointed by you, which we're asking, that is something we can comply to. But as a district administrators, we can actually we can bring names to you for
Thank you for that viewpoint. And I think the SHAC proposal on the cell phone is an excellent example of the good work coming out of there, and the need, right, for all kinds of different perspectives. So hopefully expedite the process for implementation. I just had one other question. Why not take the 5 parents too? Why not take the 5 parents plus the others and know that I know it's really not great when you set rules in place and people don't follow it, but I also understand what you're saying, and I think we all want to get to the same the same goal anyway, right? And I think even we heard that this would be beneficial to have these perspectives on the SHAC. So why not include just everyone who has an interest, knowing that not everyone is able to be fully engaged the whole time anyway, and that 31 is an estimate. It's based on data. I know you did your work, but it still may not be right for what our district needs. So why not include the parents too? The 5 parents that we turned away, because I do understand what you're saying. It feels a little wrong, right, to have turned away 5 parents, but then include some latecomers from the district. And so why not just bring them all on board?
I don't know if I call them latecomers.
What do you think about that?
Is it a motion or you?
Well, I think we have to. I want to know why that couldn't be possible.
Outside of our bylaws.
Okay.
That would really be
just the bylaws. Okay.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Okay. So if we're operating outside our bylaws, then how does the other constructs and guide that we have within the bylaws, how else does that apply when we make exceptions to certain things?
So from my perspective, are you asking the board if we
I'm
can
asking
answer?
just a general question from because these are this question will come to us.
Okay.
In
so
October.
I see this as a state and federal thing.
Okay.
You guys are state, we're federal.
Okay.
So the state created some laws that we don't think is beneficial for the body. We get the convenience, if you will,
Sure.
to correct that, right?
Okay.
Or to adjust it or amend that, right? So we're not saying your bylaws aren't valid. We're just saying specifically relative to this issue, we think that we should be more encompassing and include, because you're there to service us, to advise us, right? And so we're giving you more directives or more recommendation or more of a understanding of what our expectations are. Shouldn't you guys be open to receiving that?
Yes, that's why I was asking the question. Thank you.
So that was my response. I can't answer for the rest of you.
Sure, thank you very much.
I've got a couple of things, if you don't mind, unless Ms. Oldenweiler wants to go first.
Go right ahead.
So looking at the breakdown, there's a couple of thoughts. Conroe has parents only. So the parents, Conroe has 5, College Park has 4, the Woodlands High School has 9, Grand Oaks High School has 6, Caney Creek has 0, and Oak Ridge has only 2. Is there a way that you would think that we could leave some spots open for Caney Creek if they want to come in later on?
I think if we're saying, if the board's decision is to bring on the parents that apply, then I think that's the fair thing to do. Because Caney Creek historically hasn't had very good representation on the shack,
Yeah.
which we would welcome, you know, that diversity and input. So.
Yeah, I know. I think I mean, you can obviously only pull from those that apply.
Sure.
Which there was a while back, someone came and chastised us about the bond committee members. It's like, and now you get it, right? Hey, you can only work with the people who apply. But Ms. Gladys, you sent an email out earlier, and I just want to confirm the bylaws that the shack puts together. This change, does that supersede the recommendation that we could, like, we still have the ability to recommend whomever we want? Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you had mentioned transparency a while ago, which we're friends. I'm for, and my question is, obviously you and I have had email exchanges in the past. How come you didn't tell me about these bylaw changes?
I did reach out about the bylaws.
When was that?
January, I believe. Remember, I had asked if you wanted to have a board member serve and work with the shack directly. That was one of the recommendations from Texas DSHS I sent in them. And that's when I said, you know, we were modifying the bylaws. I did bring that up.
Did you? I remember you asking if we wanted a board member, but I don't remember anything about adjusting the bylaws.
Yeah,
just if we wanted, I mean, if you want to send that back to me, that'd be great. I could have some proof of that. But at the end of the day, what I think that a lot of these people that have been recommended to be appointed have never filled out an application before, and they probably didn't think that these new bylaws don't really apply to them. And so I look at the list of people here, and I even asked the board if they would mind recommending some people to the committee. And I know that some of my board members actually did take advantage and recommended some people. And one of those parents were actually cut from the committee. That there was a recommendation from the board that didn't make your list. That's not really working with us. So I'm looking at this list here. You've got the chief of police that we would recommend. You've got a health services specialist, a school nurse, mental health specialist, athletics specialist, a health teacher, several principals. I'm not sure why anybody wouldn't want those people on this committee. And I've heard them earlier during this conversation and also during public comments that they were referred to as district resources. I think that's a little bit offensive to call people district resources when they have names. These people have names. They're not district resources. They're people. They're administrators, and I think they deserve not to be called district resources. So I don't see any reason why we can't add these people. And I appreciate the work that you've done.
Yeah.
I appreciate the thought that you have that, you know, someone wants to apply and that they should be cut from a list when they just want to serve their community. I don't understand that part. It's just not really a practice that we do. And I think it's up to the board to determine if we want to accept this recommendation, which the motion was to accept everybody that you recommended. Plus, we want to add district personnel and district employees to the list here as well.
I'm not aware of a parent recommendation from.
It was brought to my attention.
All I can tell you is I don't know about that.
Okay.
So I'm happy to look into it, but I don't know about any parent that was recommended that wasn't, that we saw when we made our membership list. So
it was actually Steven Stanford that was requested to be
Okay. So administrator.
Yeah, I'm
Administrator.
actually going to address that once you're
Okay,
done.
very good. You want to now?
Yeah, I'm actually, so, Dr. Spear, and when the request went out to the board, I believe it was early September, someone correct me if you remember exactly.
August.
August.
Was it
Yeah,
August?
August.
Maybe mid-August.
Mhm.
It was not mentioned that there was an application, a membership application process. I was actually approached by Mr. Stanifer about serving because he was approached by, I think it was Mr. Haymart to, he was encouraged to apply or to request a nomination for this. And there was no mention of this application process, the application window. So I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
Because out of respect for the bylaws, I would like to actually rescind my recommendation, because had I known that y'all had gone through so much trouble to write these bylaws with the help of Dr. Upshaw, and you told me these were reviewed.
Yeah, they were reviewed, and a lot of work went to it. Ms. Gladys weighed in, gave feedback that Dr. Upshaw shared with us,
Yeah.
so we did take a lot of that and incorporate those changes.
Yeah, and at that point in time, I think you said early January, maybe when y'all were working on that when you sent Mr. Heber.
Allegedly.
Well,
I don't remember it.
When that was being discussed, so you received feedback from other members of the district. So they were in agreement with this approach to how membership would be handled.
Ms. Duncan, I want to be clarified that I was not, I mean, my review of that, I had many legal concerns, which I shared with Dr. Upshaw to the committee, and I never saw the final product.
And
of
Dr.
bylaws.
Spear.
Well, I shared them with Dr. Upshaw. She's our client.
So I'm assuming that was discussed in y'all's meetings and before the decision was made to move forward with the bylaws. Is that a correct assumption?
It was discussed. It was discussed, and I did discuss with them that regardless, sometimes I get those confused, being a second language learner, regardless, thank you, of the bylaws that they created, the subsection of membership, that the Board of Trustees has the ultimate authority of appointing. And at that point in time, whether it was a percentage, not percentage, whether they chose to make it one parent chair or a co-chair, that was really up to the board. So that was communicated. And shared that with them. They moved forward with the 60% at what they set forward, and it came to a vote at a SHAC meeting, I think it was in May, and it was voted to keep as is what they have shared with you.
So Dr. Upshaw, why did you did go through the application process? You submitted your application.
Yes, ma'am.
Through the process. When you reached out to the district administrators, I think you said principals and teachers, did you tell them, hey guys, you're going to have to go through the same process that I chose to go through?
One of the reasons that I personally chose to go through the process was because when we were trying to go back and forth through all of the communication, I think where we tried to move collaboratively, one of the first meetings that we had with the SHAC, Wade Haymart is listed as the co-chair, and that has been as an appointed by the board. In a meeting, it was mentioned to us that district complete cannot be a co-chair. So we moved forward with one chair. And I was, as we tried to work at that, I'm going to work with this process, I was assigned by President Hubert to be the district liaison. And as I reached out to try to work and try to be invited to subcommittee meetings, try to engage with the SHAC, try to give feedback, I was reminded on many occasions that I was not part of the SHAC. I was also not I asked why I was not part of the membership process. I met with Dr. Spear and also Ms. Kersey on July the 30th. We went through the process. I helped create the forms, helped do things online, and asked, I would have wished to have been part of the process. I could have known at that given time, let me go out and do this, let me go out and do that. At any given time, I did not share with them that I would not have a recommended district list. So whether they have a process or they do not, again, it is an outlier for this committee not to have district appointed personnel. It's just, that's how I will share that.
Okay. That's.
We ready to vote on this?
What is the number that you're recommending again?
31.
No, 31's the max. So what's
So
the number?
we went ahead and we did add Stephen Standiford, let me make sure I say that right, which is our assistant principal, if you're respecting Mrs. Duncan's recommendation. So, thank you. 14.
So 14.
So we deduct that,
How,
it'd be 30.
can I ask real quick while you're saying that, how are the other appointees, were they nominated? Did any other board members nominate anyone?
No,
they did not. No, ma'am.
So these
No,
were
just you.
handpicked?
I actually reached out to several people, and I got a resounding, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's one of those, this SHAC committee, as the harder work that they do, the reports that have gotten back to me is it's very difficult to have all voices heard on the SHAC committee.
Have you watched the meetings?
Well, I haven't watched the meeting, but like y'all, I talk to people, you know.
No,
you
I've
always say
watched
you
the
talk to
meetings.
people.
I don't get that same sentiment.
That's okay. I'm talking to a person who was on the SHAC committee. I'm talking to other people who have been on it and then said, you know, I can't go back. I know that we've had some employees for the school district that were on that committee that said, not only am I not wanting to come back, but I don't even want to come back to work. So there's a lot of issues with the SHAC committee, and I think this is an issue. This is an issue of asking people to sign up and then telling them they can't vote, and you know you know, Mr. Williams kind of touched on a little bit, some undertones.
I didn't touch on it. I said it specifically.
Yeah.
It is what it is. The sound is this is eerie. It's getting as if this is blatant and we're all dancing around. It seems like we're disenfranchising folks, and this is a power struggle.
No,
I don't know why it seems to be that case or it needs to be that case, but we need to start over. Y'all need to, within the SHAC, y'all need to put together a culture committee, because it seems like we're lacking a good culture in the SHAC committee itself. So we spend a lot of time on things. We need to focus on working well with one another, playing well with one another, and providing us with good information that we can have some sense of integrity, that information is vetted by folks that have a serious vested interest in the success of the school district. Right now, it's serious concern for me as it relates to any recommendation the SHAC is going to provide.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, as an advisory committee to us, like, I really struggle to see how having these district voices that you mentioned and that are on that list would not benefit us in an advisory capacity. And also just running the numbers, right? So 12 returning parents, 14 new parents, that would be, you know, 65% of the total population, even if you added this 14 list of the district side. So it's still more heavily weighted on, you know, parent representation and parent voices, which of course is like valuable, and I would honestly maybe prefer to have more it skewed to the parent perspective there. So, and then possibly adding those additional 5 parents we took away would even be a greater than parent perspective there on the SHAC. So I would like to do, I would like to amend.
A second.
Let's see what she says.
I would like to amend Teresa's motion.
How about
I still
this?
haven't had discussion on the original one. Does that matter?
I think we have been discussing.
No,
right?
I never got to.
Oh,
I
sorry,
kept
Mr.
trying and then I
Fuller.
deferred.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. But if it's more appropriate to go with the amendment and then have me speak, that's fine with me too. Whichever way.
I tell you what, probably if it's about what we're talking about now, go ahead, because if she makes an amendment
It could change it.
and then it's seconded, then the discussion will be about the amendment.
Okay.
So if not, why don't you please help us
Okay,
out?
so first question is, President Hubert, could you tell me the purpose of the statute for enacting the SHAC, the Student Health Advisory Council?
The statute, do you want me to quote a statute?
No, I just want you to tell me the intent of it.
They're an advisory committee for the board, to determine on what we are to be teaching as far as health and athletics and things like that, not literature, but curriculum and things of that nature. That is what the SHAC committee's main purpose is for us. One of the great things that's coming out of this is the mental health awareness with our cell phones. So that's part of what the SHAC comes back and recommends.
President Hubert,
excuse me, if the questions are going to be directed at other board members, that's not the discussion that we're having. Our discussion is with Dr. Spear and Dr. Upshaw. And so if we are not going to be addressing them specifically, I don't think we need to question board members and their intentions.
I think you're right, but I wanted to at least entertain, because I was hoping that you were going somewhere with it.
Well, we
that had
are.
to do with this.
We are going somewhere with it. Dr. Spear or Dr. Upshaw, either one. Sorry, I'll go Dr. Upshaw and then I'll ask Dr. Spear. Dr. Upshaw, what was the purpose and intent of bringing about a SHAC, Student Health Advisory Council, by the state and the TEA, or Texas Education Code? What was the intent and purpose for it?
All right, I will go for a point of order, because we're getting way off track here.
No, I have a reason for it, and I am asking, I've sat through lots of discussion, I'm simply asking, go ahead.
But please, Dr. Upshaw.
All right, Dr. Spear, are you interested in answering this question?
I'm asking you, Ms. Olenweller, to hold on just a second.
I'm about to go to my second question on it, Mr. President.
Is it have to do with the motion at
Yes,
hand?
it very much does, and the discussion that has been stated.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Upshaw, if you would like to comment. Go right ahead.
No, I'm not allowing that question to be answered. I entertained it, thought you were going to go somewhere with it.
So I am going somewhere with it, and I have the right to ask my questions as well. I waited till everyone spoke.
I'm
President
not
Hubert.
keeping you from asking questions. I'm trying to keep us on track with the motion. The motion and discussion
The most significant point of the SHAC stated in the statute was to give the parents a seat at the table and a voice of communicating with the board directly. Does not mean that they usurp our powers. We have the right to do what we're choosing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the point was that the SHAC was created to be run by parents, to be spoken and give advice and bring mental health, physical health, etc. to the board. It does not mean that they are usurping our power. My whole thing on this is, I don't understand why, when the state sets forward to give a voice to the parents, the one thing these parents have as their roundtable, their discussion, their process of coming to and bringing to us, why are we fighting them? I don't have a problem with us having, and I take exception to the statement that using the term resources was a slight or a dig or a negativity. I can't remember what your term was. I take exception to that because I personally watched all 4 meetings or attended the meetings. I saw the tone in the room. I attended and sat with Dr. Upshaw and had communication with her. All of these things, I never saw any disrespect to our teachers or our employees or anything. But my point that I'm getting to on this is that the term resources is how it's stated in SHAC, in the not the bylaws, by the state and all. It has to do with the district's resources, bringing in resources to converse with the SHAC as well. So that was the term, and that's why I believe it was used. So I just want to state that for the record. The second thing that I had been waiting to ask, Dr. Dr. Spear or Upshaw, either one, what was the total number of your membership this year?
It was, I'm going to say 40, I think I said 40, excuse me, Dr. Spear said 48.
Okay, and what was the complaint about that? Dr. Spear or Upshaw? What?
It was too large. It was too large.
And so if we take the 31 members that are presented right now, plus the 12, plus the 5 parents, we're back at 48 if I'm not a math I'm a reading teacher.
Yeah, that's right, 48.
48. We're back up to 48. So I'm not saying no. I'm just stating that's something to consider. The next thing I did want to ask had to do
I
with.
didn't even hear a question. What was the question?
How many members they had last year?
I asked how many there were last year and what the biggest problem was with it, and we're right back where we were.
Except I do have to interject for a moment. If Trustee Odenweller's point of this is the one committee where parents can participate and have their voice heard, then why would we limit that voice?
Well, I got to add to that. Well, that's the case, and that we're of that same mindset. Why are we interrupting and why are we participating as board members if that's y'all's kind of the parents thing?
I'm so sorry, I'm not following.
Why is there this level of board member participation in these committees? It's all about the parents.
There aren't any board members on the committee.
Okay.
They just
Well,
attend.
Or watch the recording.
Yeah, watch the recording.
All right.
Okay, I misunderstood.
I think we're ready to call for
Ready
the
for
question.
my.
Yeah, go ahead. We wait on your motion.
You wanted to amend?
I want to amend your motion, which was to accept the recommendation of the 31 plus the 14 from the district. I want to amend that to include also accepting the 5 parents that were rejected.
Is that your amendment?
Yes.
Okay,
So your amendment is just to add the 5 parents?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
so
so
let's see.
So then the numbers to me make sense. I mean, that's over 60% parent representation on this committee.
So that is let's vote on this amendment. So that is the amendment to the motion. Do we have a second to the amendment of the motion?
I have to second it.
Mr. President, I have a question because I
Yes.
rescinded my nomination, so I want to make sure that that's on the record before this vote occurs.
Got it.
So
Okay.
if this were to.
All right, well then the
No,
parent.
but they're still being recommended on.
They don't have to join.
So,
But I want that on the record that I'm rescinding Mr.
Okay.
Stanifer's nomination because I was unaware of the window of application time.
okay.
Except Dr. Upshaw, didn't we already place him?
Because I had I had communicated that, and I did not want to be disrespectful and
After
not
asking.
add an appointed.
My decision is being made because out of respect for the bylaws that.
Okay. Very good. So that is the amendment. Do I have a second to the amendment?
I will second out of respect for the board.
Okay. So we have a motion to amend the motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay.
I would like clarity on, does it still, Dr. Spear, my question is,
You're voting on the second.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought they already got the
Just
second.
on the amendment.
Oh, I thought you got the second, sorry.
Yes, ma'am, I did get the second. Now our discussion is about
The amendment.
adding the 5 people. Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question. If
About the
with-
5?
Yes, with the 5 employees, would they be voting members?
Those
They're
were
Those are
parents.
parents. Oh, they're parents. Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
they would be voting.
Thank
Yes,
you.
they would all be voting.
And I have another
Everybody
question.
votes.
I do have another question because that was 48 was an even number. So you mentioned earlier going with an odd number membership.
That's a good point.
So with the rescission of my nomination, that'll bring it back down to 47.
There you go.
We assume we're gonna get 48 people show up.
I know, I doubt they get a full
Right.
It sounds good.
participation. but-
Well, let's,
Call the vote on
okay, so the way I have to do this is we're going to vote on the amendment to the 48. So let's vote on that. All in favor of
Wait,
the...
so we're
No, we're
voting
voting
on
on
your
second.
amendment?
He's right.
Yes, after the addition of the 5.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we're
that's
going to
all we're
vote on the,
voting on.
I'm going to get to Ms. Dungan's request as well. I got to do it the proper way. So we're going to vote on the amendment, which is just to add the 5 people that were cut to this recommended list. That doesn't mean now, and then after that, we'll vote on the recommended list. And at that point, I will ask Ms. Dungan to move to remove that person so we can do it officially that way.
Thank you.
Okay? Fair? All right, all those in favor of the amendment to the motion, show by the uplifted hand.
I'm gonna go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed by the same sign? 1, 2. All right, motion carries. Now, Ms. Dungan, I would entertain a motion to remove, well, no, hold on a second. We have the
We
motion
have
now.
The original motion.
Is original. So
Yes.
I would request that you would make an amendment to the motion to remove Stephen Strandard from
Stanifer.
excuse me, from being appointed by the district. I can't make that motion.
A motion to remove my nomination that was made for Mr. Stanifer to be added.
Okay. Do we have?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
I have a discussion. Did we discuss this with Mr. Sanford? I'm hesitant to have someone move somebody from a list that they are,
He was only put on the list because of my nomination.
but does he want to serve?
Well, this is the reason I'm actually removing it. In addition to not being aware of the window of time that they were set to be applying for this, he was unaware of that. Also, I want to make sure that we don't end up with an even number of members. So we want to get back to a 47 total membership.
Okay.
So in alignment with that, he's not going to be offended by.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to disrespect him because I highly respect him.
The only communication we've had is the communication that Ms. Dungan has had with him, because we received an email expressing her nomination to you, sir, and
He followed up with me, and I told him we would be voting tonight. Nothing would be final until the board approved.
okay, thank you.
I feel kind of funny voting to somebody without them wanting to move.
Yeah.
Go
You
ahead.
have to vote your conscience like you
Go
tell
ahead.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All those in favor of the amendment to this motion, show by the uplifted hand.
Just to remove.
Just to remove, that's correct. Any opposed by the same sign? 2. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. So now, the motion,
So is he removed?
he has been removed.
Okay.
So will you please read the motion? Because we'll now vote on the motion.
Okay. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the recommended membership list for 2023-2024 SHAC Committee as presented by the administration and by the SHAC Committee. Make clear that all members of the SHAC Committee have equal voting rights with the addition of the 5 excluded parents, that Dr. Edith Upshaw will serve as an equal co-chair of the SHAC Committee along with a parent co-chair selected by the full SHAC Committee. Minus Stephen Standiford.
I have a point of order.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't get one of my last discussion points on this, and I started to ask Dr. Spear about it when we started the whole amendment thing. And I just have one last question before we vote on this.
Yeah, but we need a second.
No, you don't need a second. You just restated the
Oh,
motion.
that's right.
That motion is on the floor, so if your motion is about accepting
Yes,
this,
it
please,
is about
please
that.
proceed.
Dr. Upshaw, will you reread that? Dr. Spear, will you reread that because it pertains to the motion, the parent as the chair or co-chair again, please?
Sure. So for reference, I'm on page 8 of the Texas DSHS School Health Advisory Council. And it's School Health Advisory Council members.
Can you speak up?
Oh,
please?
so sorry, yes. The law also requires that a parent member serve as the chair or co-chair of the SHAC. And it talks about primarily there are 3 methods for selecting members: appointment, election, or volunteer.
Yeah, I was fixing to ask you, Ms. Gladys, please.
I think the board policy BDF has the actual language of the statute in it, and it.
Turn your mic on, please, Ms. Gladys.
Sorry. Board policy BDF legal has the actual language from Texas Education Code section 28.0 for that Dr. Spears referring to, and I'm going to read the exact paragraph. It says the board shall appoint at least 5 members to the SHAC. A majority of members must be persons who are parents of students enrolled in the district and who are not employed by the district. One of those members shall serve as a co-chair, as a chair or co-chair of the SHAC. Okay. That in plain English means that a parent shall serve either as the chair or as the co-chair to the SHAC committee.
So it doesn't mean that a district employee can't be
Correct.
co-chair.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
what we asked
Any
for.
other questions or thoughts? Okay, very good. All those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any opposed by the same sign? All right, 4-3, motion carries. Thank you. All right.
And our sincerest apologies to Mr. Stanford.
Yes.
He'll be fine.
He might be okay.
I'll buy him some extra
It's a few less meetings. I don't know. You know, it's a long drive from York, so he might be all right.
I would agree with you, Dr. Knoll. Knowing Stan, I would agree.
Okay, moving on to item 7A, which is planning and construction. A, receiving capital improvements update.
All right, Mr. Foster.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. It's my pleasure to bring forward for you an update of our capital improvements underway throughout the district, beginning with our safety and security program 23-24.
Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
Certainly. So beginning with our safety and security update for 23 and 24, this project is the final project of our 2019 bond referendum for the safety and security package. At the completion of this project, we will have touched all the campuses in the district with all of our projects for our current safety and security upgrades. Like always, this project touches things that are not really seen, so it's the cameras, access controls. The project is underway, working very well with our local jurisdictions as we move through the campuses. During the school year, they're working in the evenings and the weekends as they proceed through the campuses, and they will continue to do so through the calendar year 2024. The project is currently on schedule. At Janet K. Bartlett Elementary, it is scheduled to open for students in August of 2024. You saw from the picture that Mr. McCord showed earlier this evening, we've made some progress on the exterior envelopes of the building masonry. You can see from here we're looking at the tall walls around the fine arts and the athletics area of the building, which are the most complex portions of the structure. Roof structure is going in with that as well. The building steel is nearly complete. They're detailing the finer elements of it now. We're working on that building envelope to bring that to a dry situation. It is currently on schedule, like I said, right where it would need to be for a project of this magnitude, and scheduled to open next summer for our students. Now our renovations, our Conroe High School renovations, the completion is scheduled to run through December of 2025. As we move in through this school year, we're moving to the fine arts portion of that building. Each week, or as we're moving into the school year, working with our local jurisdictions, fire marshal helping us out, we are opening more and more campus or rooms and labs within those campuses. So trying to work diligently to increase the student experience and making it better each day as we move through that campus. It is working diligently, as we said. You see some more concrete and steel for the next building arriving in the next 30 days or so. At Oak Ridge High School, the building itself, the students are using those facilities. The road construction is where we're at now. We're about 99% through with the concrete work there. We're working with Entergy currently to relocate some existing utility lines that are in that roadway currently. We anticipate Entergy having those relocated in October, and we'll be able to finish that project and get traffic on that new roadway around that campus. Our auxiliary facilities, East County Transportation, where we're getting about 100 additional bus parking spaces and some new office for the East County staff. That project is on schedule. The building is essentially complete. Light poles are in the parking lot getting ready to be turned on. The parking spaces are essentially done. And we're working on the interior of that building to create the office spaces and the mechanic shop for East County. We're anticipating using it for our fleet in December of this year. Likewise, at North County in the Conroe Center, the building itself is nearly complete for the new administration functions, which freed up some area on the kind of middle right of the picture. You can see the steel going up for the expanded mechanic shops, which are taking the place of the former admin area on that campus. Again, that project is on schedule. We've gotten some of our long lead items that we were worried about for the power and infrastructure delivered to that site, which eases up some of the schedule pressure, and we do anticipate using that facility for our fleet in December of this year as well. And that's our update.
Very good. All right, very good. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8A, business and purchasing, which is consider and award RFP 230604 HVAC refrigerant.
All right, Mr. Reeves.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Knoll. Tonight we're requesting the board considers awarding RFP 230604 for HVAC refrigerants to the following vendors for an estimated expenditure of approximately $150,000. The vendors are Summit Refrigerants, the Home Depot Pro, and United Refrigeration Incorporated. The requests for proposals pertaining to the purchase of HVAC refrigerant gases for the district were emailed to registered vendors for the district's e-bid system, advertised on the CISD purchasing website, and also multiple times in the courier. Our vendors were asked to offer unit prices for a range of refrigerant cylinders for use and repair of HVAC units. And on the child nutrition side, also looking at the walk-in coolers and refrigerators within a district. And asked vendors also to provide a shelf for catalog discounts and other related items. We had 3 vendors that submitted a response. The pricing shall be effective for 1 year through September 30th of next year, automatically renewing for 2 additional 1-year terms through September of 2026. The proposal was evaluated by the CIC Maintenance Department as well as the Child Nutrition Department, and also reviewed by the Purchasing Department. Best value offers are recommended. Funds for these purchases are provided in the general fund and for the child nutrition side through their child nutrition fund. And at this time, we request your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item 9, which is business finance. A, consider and adopt resolution approving the district's investment program.
All right, let me just give a little explanation if I can here for these next 4 items. So these are typically items that you would see in the consent agenda. They're items that we do every year. Prior to coming to the board for approval, these always go through the audit and investment committee and get approval there, and then they show up in the following board meeting. So we broke them out this year just because we have new board members, so we wanted you to see those, but also on one of these items, there'll be, a spot where President Hubert will have to recuse himself because of his employer. So we always try to separate those items out when any of you all have a conflict to make sure that you can recuse yourself appropriately. So once again, we'll present them this year so you can know what they are, and then in the future you could anticipate that they'd be back on the consent as they typically are. But Ms. Garza is here to give us explanation.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. This item, along with the next 3 items on the agenda, are brought forth for your consideration each year as required by the Public Funds Investment Act. Texas Government Code, Chapter 2256, also known as the Public Funds Investment Act, or PFIA, was established in 1987 to provide a framework or set of guidelines for entities with regard to the investing of public funds. The Act is centered on 3 major components in order of their priority, the first being safety, then liquidity, and finally yield. Information on these items, along with the review of the investment portfolio, was shared at the investment committee meeting at the September 13th meeting last week, and we are recommending no change to any of these items. So the first item is our investment policy review. A copy of CDA legal and local have been included in your board packet. We are recommending no change, and we are asking for your approval of the investment program as presented this evening.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Very good. Any discussion or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Item B, consider and adopt resolution approving the source of instructions relating to investment responsibilities.
All right. Investment officers of the district are required to have at least 8 hours of training every 2 years. This resolution is asking you to approve the sources of instruction for those 8 hours of training. We are requesting no change to our sources of instruction, so we're asking for your approval this evening.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. All right. Item C, consider and adopt resolution designating the district's investment officers.
All right, we are required annually to designate investment officers for the district. We are recommending no change to this. Our current investment officers of the district are the CFO, the Director of Finance, and then our business and accounting managers. So we're asking for your approval this evening.
Very good. We
So
have
moved.
a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good, motion carries. I will recuse myself and turn this time over to our Vice President, Ms. Teresa Wagman.
Perfect. Item D, consider and adopt resolution approving the list of qualified investment brokers. Ms. Garza.
All right, same thing. We are required annually to provide a list of qualified brokers in which we are authorized to do investing activities with the district. We are recommending no change to this list of qualified brokers, and we are asking for your approval this evening.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's take the vote. With the uplifted hand, please. What am I saying? All those in favor, thank you. Apologize. All those in favor? All right. All those opposed? And those abstaining?
I abstain. Woodforest is not my employee, but they're a sister company.
Perfect. Thank you, President Hubert, and the motion passes.
All right. Knocked your camera off.
Hey.
Okay. Item E, receive financial report. Let's go there.
All right, it's my pleasure this evening to present our financial update as of the month of August 31st, 2023. As you are aware, August is our fiscal year end, so the statements you'll see this evening are preliminary. Over the next several weeks, we'll be working on all of our closing entries for the year. So these statements this evening are not going to be the final that you'll see for the August fiscal year end. So the first is our balance sheet. The balance sheet shows the district's assets and liabilities and fund balance. Total assets in the general fund are $216 million. Total liabilities of $29 million. In the debt service fund, total assets of $29.7 million. Child nutrition, $12.8 million. And then self-funded insurance, $10.7 million. Next statement is our income statement. Total revenue year to date in the general fund, $578 million. Total expenditures of $554 million. Debt service, we did process our second debt payment in August. Total expenses of $133.5 for the year. Child nutrition, $28.7, and then self-funded insurance, we're at $52.4 million for the year. Our 2019 bond referendum, many of the projects are wrapping up. We have estimated to complete just over $46.5 million. Our self-funded insurance update, August was a heavy usage on the plan as anticipated. We did end the year with a surplus of just over $1 million, so barring any major change to the outstanding claims accrual at year end, we should be moving into 23-24 in a really good position with a surplus of $1,080,000. That will change slightly depending on how the accrual turns out at year end. Our investments as of 8/31, par value at $433.3 million. Our combined portfolio is yielding 5.11 compared to our benchmark, the 90-day T-bill, at 5.29.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Garza on our finances?
Thanks, Ms. Garza. Thank
All right,
you.
very good. Item 10 is legal. Consider and adopt resolution to declare good cause exception from House Bill 3 Armed Security Guard requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nolan, Mr. Hubert. If you'll recall at your special meeting on August 1st, Chief Blakelock presented information to you about House Bill 3 and that passed during the regular session of the 88th Legislature. House Bill 3, among many other things, requires school boards to determine the appropriate number of armed security officers at each district campus and, absent a good cause exception, ensure that at least one commissioned peace officer is present at each campus during school hours. A school board can claim a good cause exemption if the district lacks funds or lacks qualified personnel to meet the requirement. If an exemption is claimed, the board must set what the law refers to as an alternative standard to the one commissioned peace officer requirement. The resolution you are being asked to approve tonight is based on the board's discussion at its August 1st special meeting and on Chief Blakelock's recommendation. The resolution, under the good cause exception for lack of qualified personnel, sets the alternative standard for CISD campuses as follows. One commissioned peace officer at each CISD secondary school, one commissioned peace officer assigned to campuses located within a 1 to 2 mile radius of each other. CISD peace officers not assigned to campuses will remain available on patrol within the boundaries of the school district. CISD command staff will continue to be assigned to each feeder zone to provide an additional presence at campuses during the school day. The CISD Police Department will continue to train and work with our local law enforcement agencies to protect our schools. And the CISD Police Department will continue to seek out and hire qualified commissioned peace officers. Should the board want or need more specific information about the district's alternative standard, the board can adjourn to closed session under Texas Government Code Sections 551076 or 551089 to discuss more specific information. If there is no additional information needed, we request approval of the attached resolution in compliance with the requirements of House Bill 3.
So before we have a motion, would anybody of the board like to enact that?
Enact that, yeah, yes, I'd like to.
Okay, very good. Then we can,
We'll go back to under.
do I need to adjourn under
It'd be under 551.
executive session?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to adjourn now to cover all items,
Oh,
or do
we
we, or maybe could I just offer that we table this item, maybe do our next item, and then we could go to executive session, which we were going to have anyway, then we could come back and revisit the House Bill 3 item after executive session. Would that be okay? Just so that we don't go back and forth? I'm just offering that as a...
So the idea is, if it's all right with the board, we would move, instead of doing item 10, we would move to item 11, executive session, allow item 8.
No. Actually, what I'm asking is that we go ahead and move to 10B.
I'm asking, I understand, but, okay.
You say 11.
I was just going to try to move executive, I was just going to say, let's just go to executive session now, and then we can come back and do 10 all at one time.
That's fine. We just need to make sure that then you need to read all the exemptions in which we were going under, not just the
Yeah, that's
safety
fine.
exemption.
They're
So
right
that's...
I'm just saying, we'll just do 10, we'll just go to 11 right now, and then come back and do 10 all at one time.
That's fine, as long as we get all the exceptions that read.
They're right here.
That part. They're not, I don't think they're in your statement.
They're not right here?
Not-
55071?
Not
Okay.
076 and
I don't want to make it confusing. Well, we can, so what are we wanting to do? Tell me what we want to do.
Let's table
Okay.
10A and move to 10B.
All right, tabling A and going to B. B, nominate qualified candidate for the 2024-2025 Montgomery Central Appraisal District Board of Directors election.
All right, Ms. Gladys?
As we joke, we seem like we do this like every year.
Every month.
And here we are again to recommend, so each board members can nominate no one if they want to. They can nominate as many people as you want to serve on the Montgomery County Appraisal District Board of Directors. The nominations made by all the taxing jurisdictions in the county will be compiled in a ballot, which will be sent to the taxing jurisdictions to cast their allotted votes. By December 15th, you will cast yours at the November regular meeting. And so at this time, I sent you the criteria or qualifications for people to serve on the Appraisal District Board of Directors. And so if there are any motions, Mrs. Godfrey and I will try to get them down. You need to know, though, if you nominate a person, you are responsible for making sure that they do want to serve, should they be elected, and for providing me a resume or vita of the person so that I can send that to the appraisal district, and they can in turn send that to all the taxing jurisdictions, so they'll have information about the candidates that would be on the ballot.
Right.
May I ask a
Yes.
clarifying question?
Sure.
Just, I know somebody else is the first time to go through this. This is just the nomination phase. You're not voting on anybody. Each of you can nominate whoever or however many you want. This is kind of a wide open deal. You're just putting all of these on the list that will go out to all taxing entities today. So this is...
It is a motion.
No,
correct?
it's just a
It's just a nomination.
Nomination.
It's
All right,
just a
very good.
nomination.
Yes.
So President Hubert, however you would prefer, but you could just go straight down the line and just let everybody put their
Yeah.
list, and Ms. Gladys can kind of keep it.
However,
down,
if
yes.
anybody has any nominations,
I'd like to nominate Bruce Tuff, Bonner Luzzi II, and Arthur Breedhoff. All have stated that they would accept the position.
okay? Anyone else? Ms. Chase,
I don't have any additional names.
Ms. Duncan?
Nor do I.
I don't have any as well. Ms. Nelson?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay. All right.
So I have a question. If we don't nominate at least 5, what happens?
Well, there are other taxing jurisdictions, right, will nominate folks.
They'll get they receive our...
They receive ours and we'll receive theirs. And I'm trying to remember,
And then
Dr.
we...
Null.
okay.
Then you'll vote. So the way, when this will come down in the future, you all will receive a list from all the other entities of everybody that they have nominated as well. And then, because we are the largest taxing entity, really, you all can control probably 3 seats with your votes, because you just get a certain number of votes that you can cast, so you get to choose. I'm going to make it up. Let's just say it's 1,500 votes. So you could give all 1,500 to one person. You could give 500 to one and 750 to one and 250 to like that. So that's the level of how you'll vote in the future. And just because of the number of votes that exist, you all control a majority of those, so that, you know, I believe, I would say historically speaking, this board has when it comes time to vote, is typically voted for three people at a time, and when that happens, your three will be seated. That's kind of the way it works. It's super confusing, and it feels like we do it every month.
Every time. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, am I going to back to item A?
No, we go to executive session, but Carrie's going to give you an additional number you need to read when we go and on your list.
On your script, you
What
also
is that
need
number?
It's 551076 and 551089. 076 and 089.
5309. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The board will go into closed session pursuant to section 551.071, 551.074, and 551.0821, and 551.076, and 551.089 of the Texas Open Meeting Act. Any action, vote, or decision of the board with regard to any matters discussed in closed session will be made when the board returns to open session. The time is 9:40. On open session at 10:30. All right, the board is now in open session at 10:30 p.m. We're going to go back to item 10A, legal, which is consider and adopt resolution to declare good cause exception to House Bill 3 armed security guard requirement. Ms. Gladys.
I explained it previously. I think now we'd be ready for a motion if there is one, whether to adopt the resolution as presented or not.
Okay.
Motion to adopt as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, very good. The next item is action on, well, executive session, okay. Take requests from trustees regarding future board agenda items. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Okay. I think I'm going to add one for us to consider next session is some type of a board policy for our own personal cell phone use. It's really getting out of hand with our board members using cell phones. And I don't know if maybe we should have a break, if we need to have a break in between or something like that so people can use it. But it's getting out of hand where we're discussing things and board members are using their cell phones and talking with people during agenda items. So I'm probably going to put that on the agenda for next month. Anything else?
I'm going to have to bring a calculator with me then.
Yeah, I know.
A real calculator.
Okay.
I'd also like to add revising local board policy EFB,
What's that?
the library books.
Library books. All right.
Do you want that to include EFA or just EFB?
Maybe so.
You can, I mean, we have a month. You can
Yeah.
send me clarification.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. We have our next item is to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All right, very good. All in favor? Motion passes. Very good.